Good morning, everybody. This is the Oskar Quentin Show, where we debate politics with strangers on TikTok. It's a fun show. It gets pretty crazy. The strangers on TikTok have some pretty nonsensical beliefs about just about everything. The prompt today is that Trump lost the war. We'll see if we actually talk about that, because I'm very interested in discussing that $300 billion deal with some Trump supporters. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, you can find when the first call starts in the pinned comment at the top of the comments, or you can find when all the calls start in the description. Working on getting faster about getting those in there. Some people in the Discord have helped lately, which is lovely. Everybody in the Discord for helping me do stuff in the background. I'm going to mention the news again, which is that 15 ICE observers were indicted in Minnesota yesterday by the government for conspiracy against the government. I've said pretty publicly, my following's grown a lot since this time, but I was involved in a lot of the rapid response networks in Minneapolis in January and February. And in March in Minneapolis. So it hits close to home. It's some people who, not super closely, but it's some people I knew about. And I do obviously consider it to be a weaponization of the justice system against people who are standing up for what's right. And also doing constitutionally protected behavior. Observing ICE agents is legal. And I've looked through the indictment some, and they'll find particular little things to charge people for, little moments where somebody stepped a toe out of line, but I just think it's obvious. I mean, we're talking about a president that pardoned the J6ers going after people who distributed plastic shields and whistles. We'll see if people are going to be mean to me about that. I was not having it yesterday. I was in a bad mood. I was worried about my friends. I was worried about myself. I was thinking it's a very real possibility that I'm going to get arrested by the FBI while recording the show, which would be probably good content. Follow me on the other platforms if you want to keep up to date on the shenanigans. But hopefully we can get right into a call today and get a less zany episode than we had yesterday. Who do we have? We've got the regulars. We've got Raven, Ashley, Neurodivergent, Ezra, Mile High Heathen. Derek T is here. Hello, Derek. I was just watching your live stream a few minutes before I started. We've got Jay. We've got Left, we've got Joey, we've got David, we've got Omega. Who do we have over on YouTube? We've got Katie, we got Blaze, we got Mirror, Pudgy, Milk Girl, one of the mods, Tavi, one of the mods, NES Josh 64. That username just continue. Every time I see your username, it just scratches the itch a little bit more. Maybe I'll blow all this YouTube money on retro video games and go back to being a kid and forget all this politics and adulting. Can I go home? Can I eat a PB&J and play Ghouls and Goblins on the NES? Can I make popcorn and get butter on my controller and get yelled at by my parents for getting butter on the gear? I just want to curl up in a little ball and go back to being a 90s kid and not deal with all this 21st century nonsense. Oh man. Molly says, "Have I ever left home?" Molly, I would urge you to just hit the request button, which is this pink and blue button down here. I'd really be interested in talking to you, because I think that's kind of a strange thing to ask a person who's doing a live stream. And I'm curious about your motivation to ask me that question. And I'd like to discuss that with you. So, just hit the request button. We can have a talk about it. I'm mostly I just want to know why you asked that question. It doesn't seem very Tavi sent me $2 on YouTube Super Chat. Money for Oscar's PB&J fund. I can afford PB&Js. I could actually afford PB&Js before I started live streaming. That was about it, but oh man. Yeah, so the prompt is I spent so much time talking about Iran on this show. I spent so much time talking about the JCPOA, which is the deal that Obama brokered to prevent Iran from making nuclear weapons. Guests have spent hours and hours of showtime on the Oskar Quentin Show trying to prove to me that the JCPOA wasn't working, that they were in fact making nuclear weapons. Which is nonsense. We can get into some of those claims if somebody calls in and talks about it. But the particular sticking point that I found we didn't really get to it yesterday, but I'm very interested in discussing with a Trump supporter, is that people bring to me all the time this concern about Obama releasing $1.7 billion of funds to Iran as part of the deal. And the standard talking point from the left is it was their money. We sanctioned it, we confiscated their money, and then as part of the negotiation is we gave that money back. So the reason we confiscated the money is to give us negotiating power, which worked because we then negotiated to give it back. So we didn't lose any money. What we did worked, even though it was like decades long. Like it wasn't Obama who confiscated it in the first place. But it was an effective negotiating token. It was a good card to play to get Iran to not make nukes. And it was $1.7 billion that we weren't going to spend because it was not taxpayer money. It wasn't in the treasury. It's confiscated money. But the Republicans frame it as Obama paying them to not make nukes, and then that money gets spent on terror groups or whatever sorts of things. So that's the argument. So why is it okay that Trump is going to give Iran $300 billion to end the war, to open the strait? TH says, quit yapping and be productive. What are you doing? Why are you typing comments into this live stream if you don't think it's productive? Why are you here? What are you doing? Come on, like your comment is self-defeating. If you don't think what I'm doing is productive, I mean, it's upsetting you. That's accomplishing something. But anyway, I cannot wait to hear the mental gymnastics. I am so excited to try to get a Trump supporter to square it. Now, what I think is actually going to happen is they're going to deny it. They're going to say that that's not happening. I don't think I'm going to be able to have a meaningful conversation about this until after the money is sent. Because J.D. Vance is the person who let slip that it's going to be at least a $300 billion deal. Just raw taxpayer money right out of our pockets, something like $2,000 per resident of the country, per taxpayer or something like that. It's something like that. That money's going to go to them. We're going to release a bunch of sanction money to them. I think that the Trump supporters are just going to say it's fake news because that's what Trump said, even though J.D. Vance is the one that slipped it. So I don't know. I'm just excited. I want to see them try to make it make sense to me. That they've spent so much time complaining about the $1.7 billion that Obama released, and now Trump is going to release $300 billion. Canadian Vicky said, ask Law about Dean's caller who could be deported. That's interesting. Is there some drama I don't know about? Did somebody did somebody get themselves deported by calling into Dean's show? I don't know. I can message Law of the Wild about that later. Maybe he'll show up during today's show. And Dirty Backroad sent me $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, will Trump lash out after his defeat in Iran and turn his rage to Cuba or Greenland? Possible. He might, he's been talking about Cuba being next, right? Is he going to do it? Is he going to go? Is he going to invade Cuba after we're done in Iran? Is he just going to do it one at a time? I don't know. Have I ever met Trump? No. Kind of a silly question, but not really, because I'm a New Yorker. Originally I was a New Yorker, so I walked past him on the street once, like 15 years ago. But he wasn't a politician then. That was before 2016. That was when I was like 18 years old. Or 16 or 17. I was in high school, I think, but that's just because I lived in the neighborhood. I remember I was walking with a friend, and we were talking about seeing celebrities in that neighborhood because I grew up in Lower Manhattan, and I was like in Soho a lot, and there's a lot of celebrities just, it's easy to spot. You get kind of jaded to seeing sometimes pretty A-list celebrities just walking around Lower Manhattan. So I was talking with him about that, and he asked me who the last person I'd seen was, and I said it was Donald Trump, like a block back, because I saw him and didn't even bother mentioning it because it's just like, yeah, well, whatever. It's a rich guy. Lots of rich guys in Lower Manhattan. Papa Steve Bolton says, that's a damn lie. Trump is not giving Iran any money. Young people are so gullible and ignorant. Yeah, that's adorable that he thinks I'm young. It's also adorable that I predicted exactly what he was going to do, which is just completely deny that it's happening at all. So I'm going to mute you for the today's live, Papa. If you want to discuss those things with me, you are going to have to hit the request button, which is the little pink and blue head down here at the bottom of the TikTok live, and then you can discuss that with me. Also, as Will is pointing out, no caps in the chat, please. See, there's a bunch of angry people in the chat. Why am I not having any callers? Like, who do we got? We've got, so America says, mute cancel culture. I didn't cancel him. I demanded him to join the platform and, like, come have a conversation with me in front of everybody. I'm trying to amplify his voice. I'm encouraging him to get up and defend the claim that he's making. So, America, you could come up too. Same thing to you. Calm down. About what, dude? It's my show. If I want to be yappy on my show, I'll be yappy. America, you're getting muted too. Like, I know it's good for the engagement, but if you want to talk to me, you're going to have to use your big boy voice, and you're going to have to do it by hitting the request button down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to mute you for the entire live and encourage you to come up here. Because I'd love to talk to you. You're the type of person I'm interested in understanding. So I do think it's hilarious that people think my tactic of muting people in the chat in order to get them to join the show is like cancel culture. And it's like I'm demanding that you become a feature on my show. And if you watch my show, a lot of the people who are angry in the chat don't watch my show. It's a lot of new people who make baseless accusations based on what other debate hosts do. I think my audience knows. Like, I give everybody a pretty fair shot. I don't bite people's heads off right away. Somebody asked me when I'm running for governor. Tom Evanstad wants me to be his lieutenant governor. The problem is that he's a psychopath who is on the sex offender registry and assaults women. The last time I crossed paths with him, actually no, that's not true because I saw him yesterday at the rally for the 15 people arrested. So I crossed paths with him yesterday. But other than that, the previous time I crossed paths with him, I had to put my hands on the guy because he was assaulting a woman. I chose not to upload the footage of that. I didn't want to give him the attention. But I thought it'd be funny. He pesters me like twice a week to be his lieutenant governor. But he's literally just a crazy person. He's like a zany dude who makes like crazy Instagram videos and assaults people on the street and stuff. He's like an actual crazy person. But I thought it would be funny if I accept his offer to co-run as his lieutenant governor, but then just use the platform to tell people not to vote for him. I could pick who I want to be governor and use his platform to promote them, and that would piss him off. But I don't know. He knows I hate him. He says that because I have the balls to talk back to him, I should be his lieutenant governor. He needs somebody with the moxie. But I don't know. Tom Evanstad is crazy. We're going to talk to Anon Amos. Is this Amos Moose? Is this a related username? I don't know. I think it's maybe a new person. How old are you?
27.
Okay. Are you a Trump supporter?
No, but I was hoping to talk with you a little bit, maybe even encourage some MAGA to jump up and talk about something, you know. You were talking about the JCPOA earlier, and I know I'm not well versed in it. Could you explain better for like layman almost? I don't know.
I am gonna I have somebody else in the queue, so I'm gonna check if they're a debater.
No worries, boss.
Yeah, I appreciate you hopping up to help. But yeah, I kind of already went through a little bit of the JCPOA at the beginning, so I have to manage as host, like repeating things for the live experience because there's people coming and going all the time without repeating stuff too much, because then the show is a VOD that usually more than 1,000 people watch on YouTube, and I don't want to like damage the podcast too badly by just being a broken record. Oh, somebody left, but Jean Barber is here. Jean? I don't know. I've never seen the spelling. She can tell us after she tells us how old she is. If she connects. Hello, how old are you?
Intelligence agency, including what John Ratcliffe is leaking to the press. We can't trust them on this. Another interesting point.
I don't think that she knows that she connected. It is easy to hit the button by accident. To answer Katie in the YouTube chat, yes, I said Amos, A-M-O-S. I thought that might be a user who I think is banned. Is Amos Moose banned? Mods, help me remember. Is Amos Moose the same person as Popcorn? I think Popcorn's banned. I don't know. Diava remembers, I'm sure, if she's here. I don't know if Diava's is watching today. Oh, man. But Michael Unmuted says not Popcorn. Yeah, the mods don't remember. I can never remember. It's just a blur, you know? Sometimes even when I'm reviewing the episodes, I listen to a section, I listen to the caller, and I listen to me unable to identify who it is. And the me that isn't running the show, the me that's sitting not live, no pressure, nothing, can listen to it and be like, Oscar, come on. You know this caller. He calls in once a week. How can you not place it? But for whatever reason, there's something about the pressure of the show. Because we're not getting a caller and we're 15 minutes in. I will start the show with a commercial and say that you can go to the link tree in my bio and follow me on the other platforms, including the backup TikTok accounts, Oskar Quentin 2 and Oskar Quentin Music. Forgot to boot up the burner phone because I was gonna put the backup accounts over here. I was going to have them join so you guys can just click on them. But they are at the bottom of the link tree. And there are ways to support the show materially in the link tree if you like what I'm doing. People send their gifts and super chats and stuff. But this is my full-time job, arguing with Trump supporters. Maybe I won't get to do that today if they're all afraid to talk to me. We'll see. If you like what I'm doing, though, you can help me pay my bills because the show is currently what pays my bills for the most part, and that's pretty exciting that I get to do this. But I'm doing it to a big echo chamber of people who like me right now. I want some opposition. I mean, there is opposition in the chat. You guys can see it. It's displayed on the screen on the YouTube stream and on the VOD. Like there are people who are mad. Like Andrew Lee says Trump won. What kind of nonsense is that? Like, please explain what you mean by that. The mods have already invited you. Please explain that. I don't get it. And then there's just the trolls who say like, oh yeah, Amos Moose is Liam. Is Liam banned? Did we make a decision on that? I don't remember. Hi says that I love Trump. I mean, I don't know. Like, what? Like, do these people just hop around in lives and just say things like is that fun for people? I don't know. I guess I never really got trolling of that sort. Liam is banned. Okay, I forget even for what. He's on that problematic short list of people who are just impossible to talk to. We're not talking about you, Anon Amos. Your username is just like mildly similar to a repeat caller who keeps coming back with different accounts. So we're not talking about the person who was just on the line. We got Carney1295, CARNY 1295. Maybe this will be a debate. 15 minutes is a little bit slow for a show. Hello, how old are you? Are you there? Carney? Nope, I don't think he is there. Goodbye. We are going to talk to Steven. 16 minutes in. Do we get a debate with Steven? We shall see. No, Steven left. Goodbye, Steven. I did it, everybody. I won. I defeated all of the Trump supporters on TikTok Live. There are none left. No, seriously though, if you're watching on TikTok, do get double tapping away on the screen so we can get some fresh meat in here. I'd like to meet some new people. I'm honestly in the mood for a good faith debate. Like I'm yesterday you guys saw Pissy Oscar. Pissy Oscar comes out sometimes. He actually hadn't come out on the show in a little while, so he was pretty well rested when we woke him up, and that was bad news for the guests. So I'm very excited to churn through yesterday and get some clips out of that. But I'm like, I could do that today if that's what we get. But I'd actually like much prefer one of those like more heartwarming callers where we like talk about ethics and stuff. That's kind of what I'm in the mood for today. We shall see. Sheikh Zulu says, spare no MAGA. Carney says no one cares. What do you mean? What do we got? We got 270 people watching, and they want to see me talk to somebody. They do care. Let me know in the chat if you care about me getting a caller, because I'm back. I think I actually managed to gain viewers during the interruption because people were asking me if they care, or answering if they care. Cool. Yeah, the internet connection by my house is not great. I mean, it's fast. It's good enough for the stream. It's unreliable though. I have little momentary dropouts pretty frequently. I actually am. Maybe it's happened once, like a long time ago, because the power here turns off for like 3 seconds, maybe once or twice a week, which it's often so short a little power blip that like the clock on my stove will reset, but like my computer won't power down because it's like super brief if it's like just under a second sometimes. I'm amazed it hasn't been a bigger problem for the show. The battery in my UPS has failed, so it doesn't actually stop it anymore. It's just being used for power protection, like power surge protection and stuff. The power is super messy in my building. I live in Minneapolis. I live right outside of downtown. So Hi has a question. Hi, weren't you being oppositional? Weren't you saying, what were you saying? Oh, it was before all the I cares. I'm not going to find it. If you have a question, I mean, I'm looking for opposition. I'm looking for some Trump supporters to talk to. That's the idea. Tommy says, Oscar. Hello, Tommy. Hello from England. Love this show, even when Oscar and guests speak over each other. That's always the thing, right? Like, there's just some callers who just cannot navigate a conversation in a way that's at all reasonable. But I just try to put that on display, you know? Like, if you can't have a conversation without being muted every 5 seconds, like, grow up, you know? There's so many grown people who call into this show and act like they're the adult in the room talking to me, but they just can't answer a basic question. They resort to name calling if they get asked a question they don't know the answer to. Machete can do an impression of a Trump supporter. Well, that's like the thing with the trolls. There are the people who try to come in and pretend to be a Trump supporter in order to like act out the part and get me to get a good clip or something, and it's bad because what often happens is like the worst thing that can happen is the audience notices and I don't. and that makes me look bad. It makes it look like I'm staging my show. Even if we just do it as a gag, it's not going to stop people from popping in and seeing that happening and thinking that we're doing some kind of scripted thing. You know, there's no controlling the ways that people are going to perceive a particular stunt like that. And I just find that one's not super beneficial. Shake says that their position does read like a parody. There are so many comments under the clips where people are like, this has to be scripted, right? Like, this is insanity. But I think that means that I'm showing the clips are getting served to people who don't watch that type of content normally, which is good, because if you watch debate content, you know that, yeah, these people are insane. These people have some of the most nonsensical beliefs I've ever heard, and they believe them with conviction based on nothing. And but if you're fresh to the debate scene, that's you know, jarring, and it looks kind of scripted. But I mean, there are people who still accuse me of like clipping out of context, but like they are uninterested in hearing that every episode gets uploaded to YouTube in its 2-hour entirety, even if it is just 2 hours of me begging for a caller. Subscript IN, or is it LN? Is this our caller? Hello.
Yeah,
How old are you?
Can you hear me? 20 years old.
20 years old. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yeah, mate. Do you have any reasoning or any topic you'd like to discuss in there?
I'm curious because I do hear the accent a little bit, and you used mate. Are you an American?
So having an accent means you're not American. Yeah. I was born in the UK, but I moved to America. I live in California currently. It's 8:21 where I'm at. I'm in Los Angeles.
I believe you.
So,
Okay, I was just checking. I believe
yeah.
you. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, I guess the prompt today is about the war in Iran, but I'm happy to talk about any issues about Trump.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think the war in Iran is something that I probably wouldn't really agree too much with. You can maybe bring some other reasoning, because I wouldn't really like to argue for something that I don't believe is a good thing or.
Okay, so you agree that he blundered the war in Iran and that it was bad, just generally?
Well, I wouldn't say blundered, but I don't think that we had the proper motivation to go and do that. I'd say that he probably had reasons to, but for the good of America, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree generally with that. I do think we blundered it. I think that it's looking like the war is going to end with us giving Iran 300 billion taxpayer dollars. I think that's quite the blunder. But we don't have to stay on our Iran if generally we agree that Trump's performance on Iran has been bad. We can move on to an area where you think that Trump's performance has been good. What is one such area?
Yeah, I think that his performance on the discourse ontology is quite good. So, are you familiar with normative ethics?
Yeah. Wait, so what was the first thing you said? Something ontology?
The discourse ontology?
Discourse.
It's just a theory within
discourse.
normative ethics.
Wait,
No,
hold
discourse.
on. Discus? Or
Discourse.
discourse?
So, there's a philosopher named Kenny Discus, and he has a
I'm not
normative
familiar
ethical
with him.
theory.
Okay, why don't you
You're not
explain?
familiar with-
I'm not familiar with that particular philosopher. Why don't you just give a brief description of what his ethics are, and I
Yeah.
can tell you what I think about them?
So basically, it says that when Papa gives milk and cookies, there's going to be some type of normative uprising, right, within the superstructure of morality. So I think that Trump aligns with this normative ethical theory,
Wait, sorry.
and I think that it's a good thing.
Sorry,
If you want to talk about specific policy, then we can go there. If you
Well, no. I just want a better explanation of that ethical framework. I didn't quite catch it. Sorry. Just try again.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, his name is Kenny Discus. He's popular within normative realist discourse because he's like a non-naturalist.
Could you spell his last name? I would like to open a tab so I can research
Yeah,
this
it's
on my
like
own.
DiouskEous.
Sorry. Slow down. Just D what?
Yeah, Diouskoues.
Yeah, I'm
You
just
find
not.
him?
I'm just not getting the autofill on that. No, sorry.
No.
Yeah, no, not finding
What
this person
browser
at
do you
all.
use? Do you use Firefox or Microsoft Edge?
I googled on Google Chrome what you spelled, and nothing came up.
Oh
There's
yeah, Google Chrome is not good for finding philosophical works. Just search up a PDF on Morian meta-ontology, and you might find one of his works.
Are we just playing the spit random terms thing here? Just to prove to my audience. Let's spell this together, one letter at a time. D.
Search up Morian meta-ontology.
Nope. Prove to me that the author you just listed exists.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. Search up
D.
Morian meta-ontology.
No,
PDF.
we're gonna talk about discus. How is it spelled?
Yeah, he wrote that paper.
How is it spelled?
You got it right. Just search up Discus meta-ontology. No, that's just like something Greek.
Well,
Meta-ontology PDF.
okay. What am I looking? And you know, it says
But
show
I can't
results.
see the full thing. It's like kind of cut off. Can you like center it, mate?
Is this better? Okay, so
Yeah.
I can show results that have this name in it, and I'm just like not like
You have to
according
get
to
the PDF.
dude, what is this?
Just trust me, get the
I've never
PDF.
been I've never experienced this situation where the caller is asserting that a person exists that I'm not able to find on the internet. What
Just
what
go
is,
to the PDF. I don't know why you're running
like
away.
this is a troll, right? Like you're fucking with me, right? You're wasting my time.
Are you gonna go to the PDF? If not, then we can just move to any specific policy.
What
we can talk about
PDFs?
is,
Dude,
like,
I don't know what the
regulatory. I don't know what you. Okay, we can just move past that and now just like blundering, but it's fine.
wait. Somebody in chat. Somebody in the chat says that he exists. That they found him. So like,
Yeah.
okay, what's the name of this PDF? What do I search? Because the name and
Yeah.
meta-ontology didn't bring it up.
Morian meta-ontology PDF. And
Morian.
It's like within metaphysics.
How
it's
is
like
Morian spelled?
Morian, Morian, like GE Moore. Are you familiar with?
Yeah. Like Moore's law.
Yeah.
Okay.
His meta-ontology. So he isn't only an ethicist, rather he has a lot of fundamental works on epistemology and metaphysics.
Okay.
And this is one of his meta-ontological theses.
Which of these documents is it?
It's supposed to say Morian meta-ontology in PDF. So it's none of those. You have to scroll down. Do you have Firefox? Because that's what I use.
I don't have Firefox installed. I mean, I could go to a different search browser if you. I mean, you know,
Wait, go to semantic deflationism and the meta-ontology. That might be one of his. Because I've read that.
Okay.
No, that's not him. That's Marshall. Yeah, no, that's not him.
I don't know, man. If Google isn't finding it, I think you maybe need to come up with. You need to send me this link in a private message and maybe try again a
He might be a
different
little
time.
niche. I'll DM it to you after we're done with our discussion.
Okay, yeah, we can move on from that. Can we talk about something that?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on? Yeah, his regulatory policy is something that I like. I think that looking at the Biden administration and the numbers on regulation, I'll have to go and get the report, but it was quite a lot of regulation, a lot of hours, and a lot of money spent on regulation. And Trump's new policy, he has obviously
Regulating
the
what?
regulation. There's a lot. There's energy, obviously, regulations, housing and zoning laws, high federal regulations on that. There was also seafood markets. There were, I think, military regulations and like contracting. And there are also him like introducing new regulations. So it's not just deregulation, but re-regulation on things like monopolies. I'll get you the specific policy.
What the fuck are we talking about? What is this conversation? Make a claim.
Regulation? You know?
Yeah, let's find something we disagree on. Make a claim.
What?
Regulation is just so amazingly vague and general a thing to say about the performance of any particular politician. It's the job of a politician to do regulation. I would argue that all laws are regulations of some kind.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the regulation that the Democrats implement, which is like a lot of regulation, a lot of like permitting, like that type of stuff. Like they put in long processes, a lot of rules that.
Yeah, so
kind
we've
of
established that you're a
obviously
Phil,
decrease
bro. Are you
productivity.
a libertarian?
I don't study political philosophy. I'm more interested in like.
You don't study
the other
political
type of
philosophy, and you called up a political commentator to talk about a bunch of philosophical shit. What the fuck are you talking about? That's man. No. I just don't accept it. Like I don't accept that that's an appropriate label for what you're doing. No. Respond to what I just said. Respond.
You don't know what that is.
You're gish galloping. You're gish galloping onto another
I'm
thing.
not gish galloping.
You asked a question. Yeah,
You don't know what that is.
I'm asking you to answer the thing I said a second ago. You just asked me if I know what anarcho-communism is. Asserted that I don't know what it is before I even answered it. But again, I'm asking you to answer.
Yeah, I'm doing the thing that you did, idiot. Like what? Like you just. Because me not studying like the ins and outs of political philosophy doesn't mean that.
No, he's gone. He's not having a conversation. I when there's a troll like that on, I try to hang on until there's somebody else in the queue, but like it's just not. Yeah, I mean, it's just a troll. Oh, thanks for showing up in the chat. I can ban him. Block account. Goodbye. Don't need him anymore. I gave him a chance, right? Like I tried. I don't believe him that that person exists. Google sucks these days. It's true that it's sometimes hard to, when he said use a different browser, use a different search engine or something like that, I thought, has Google gotten that bad that it's not finding a person that exists? That's worse than I thought. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt on that, but like, now, every time I asked him to specify the thing that we were talking about, he brought up something else, which is Gish Gallopin, right? Oh, okay, I actually want to look at this document. Okay, we're going to search this different name. Nope, who's this other person I can't find? It's just, I don't know. I know I don't need to defend myself to most people, but there are people who are going to call that an L because I ran, but it's just like, come on. Like, Steven says, wow, so you block everyone that can debate you. What a joke, bro. And Steven is making my point for me. It's like, Steven, get up here and take his place and explain to me what he was talking about if you think that that's reasonable. Hi, you are going to get banned for spamming if you keep putting L in the... I consider it voter fraud. If people want to vote with the L's and the W's in the chat, if you make more than one vote, that's voter fraud. We're not fans of voter fraud on the Oskar Quentin show. We talk about voter fraud quite a lot, and I don't like it when people do it in the chat, and it will get you banned. But for now, I'm just going to give you the warning. Mitria said blocking the ignorance isn't running. I don't think that guy was ignorant. I just think he was a troll. I think he was just fucking around. Let's see. We're gonna talk to Jinky minus 31 minutes. Is the top comment in the VOD gonna say, or the pinned comment in the VOD going to say, like, that the calls don't start until 32 minutes? Jinky minus, I actually am gonna talk to High because he's been making such a ruckus in the chat. I want to see what he has to say about that, why he thinks that was an L. But we're probably not going to talk very long if he thinks that was an L. Hello, Hi. How old are you? Oh, yeah, he just said the N-word a whole bunch, so let's get him blocked. Right, so that's the guy who was spamming L with voter fraud in the chat. There's a guy who just came up and said the N-word a bunch. Anyway, we're going to talk to Jinky Minus. 32 minutes in, do we get a debate? How old are you?
Yo, why do you have a flag that protects stupid niggers? I fucking hate niggers.
I'm just going to wait for 10 more seconds to see if my account gets banned for having 3 of those in a row. I guess it's only 2 of those in a row. We'll see. I don't know. There it is. There it is. I just waited for it. A guest in your live has violated our hate speech and hateful behavior policy. Repeated violations by your guest may lead to restrictions on your access to multi-guest live features. I knew it. We're going to reboot on TikTok. YouTube, sit tight. You guys don't have to do anything at all. On TikTok, all you have to do is follow me, or don't follow me, because the live stream is going to end in about 20 seconds. And in about 20 seconds, you can just wait for my face to appear on the screen, me with my guitar. Just click on that, go to my profile, wait like 5-10 seconds, refresh. I'll be live again. I'm only going to be offline on TikTok for like 5 whole seconds. So just sit tight, and hey, maybe that'll rescue the stream. Maybe we'll get a reboot. We'll get some fresh viewers in here. We'll get pushed out on the For You page, but puts the account in danger to keep going when there's a restriction like that. So coming up and yelling the N-word on my show is sometimes a successful way to deplatform me. W racists, I suppose. All right, going offline. I'll see all 192 of you in just a second. Right? You're gonna come right back. That's what I believe is gonna happen. I'll see you in just a second. YouTube, what's happening? We're not live on TikTok right now. I can say that Donald Trump probably raped children. I think it's very likely that he raped children. I think he's a really accomplished rapist of children. Don't really get to say that so clearly on TikTok, so I am just gonna mention a couple times while we're not live on TikTok that Donald Trump almost certainly raped a whole bunch of children. One more time, if you didn't hear me, Donald Trump probably raped a bunch of children. Okay, going back live on TikTok. Just can't say it so clearly when I'm on TikTok live. Okay. And if the YouTube chat enjoyed the private live, I guess I'll take a moment to advertise the fact that I starting Sunday, I haven't decided a time yet, so forgive me. I just need to work out what'll make the most sense. I'm planning on doing a set of Sunday evening streams that are kind of more of a news show and like friendly time and that sort of thing. And we have some guests planned. The Ostruskos, the Minnesota Angry family, are still interested in coming on the show. They've got to work that out with the lawyers. But that doesn't make sense for this debate live. I really just want to keep this to debates. But the Sunday evening show is going to be like special guests and particular coverage of things. I haven't decided how. It's definitely going to be on YouTube, so you should come follow my YouTube. I don't know if it's going to be on TikTok because I think I want the Sunday evening stream to be uncensored in the way that for everybody joining back on TikTok, there's a couple things I like to say when I'm not live on TikTok, but I am live on YouTube, so you have to watch the VODs to see that, because I just announce a couple things that I think that I'm not allowed to say on TikTok because of censorship. So that's a thing. So I might do the Sunday evening show on YouTube only, but obviously most of my live viewership is on TikTok. So I might like start on TikTok, do an hour on both, and then say, all right, TikTok, the TikTok stream is ending, hop over to the other thing, and then we'll, then we can say the bad words or whatever. Michael sent me $2 on Cash App to say, for kids need to grow up and realize slurs aren't edgy. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, you guys see me sit and deal with it all day. It's just like, I'm not impressed by it. It's just what, it's just the climate we're in. So the request queue is still empty. So I mean, at this point, like, what is the thumbnail gonna say? The thumbnail is gonna say, I scared them all away. No callers for Oskar today. I want to go outside and play. I ran out of rhymes. But I don't know. Maybe it's kind of chill that that maybe it's a good thing, right? That we're scaring them all away. I called my grandmother this morning, because I call her a couple times a week, and I wanted to let her know. I'm gonna call my family and tell them, how I feel about the arrests that happened yesterday and how close they were to home and all that. But I was talking to my grandma this morning, and she asked me if we're making a difference doing this. She asked me what I really thought about that. She's 90, by the way. This is somebody who's been mad at the Russians since they invaded Latvia. I told her that we do get concessions on the show, but it is actually very encouraging that it's very encouraging that it's becoming kind of hard to find a normal Trump supporter. Like, even just in the few months that I've been doing this, since February, back then it seemed pretty easy to get a run-of-the-mill, brainwashed by Fox News type of Trump supporter. Maybe there's just a group of those on TikTok Live, and that's the sphere of influence, and I just have been through them all, and none of them want to talk to me anymore. I don't ban very many people, so it's not people getting banned. I mean, I guess the mods ban people in the chat for misbehaving. Maybe the Trump supporters have been misbehaving in the chat. Maybe we need to do, maybe mods, this is an interesting idea that I had just now. Maybe we need to go, except for like RC and a couple of people that we've really made the call to ban permanently, maybe I need to go unban everybody that we've banned in the last 4 months, because if I do that, it gives everybody a second chance to come talk to me. And the reason I think that might be valuable to do is just because I was like reading Facebook comments yesterday under some of my videos, and a lot of people over on that platform were like, why do you let these people be mean to you? Why do you keep the conversation going after they call you a bitch? Like, why do you even engage with people who call you a soy boy? And if a Trump supporter is the type of character who can't have a conversation with me without calling me a bitch, I'd rather just let him call me a bitch, water off a duck's back, because I don't care. I know I'm not a bitch. Like, who cares? I'd rather just let it happen and then get to have the conversation, because I just don't get offended enough to care, right? Like, who the fuck cares if this guy thinks I'm a bitch? He doesn't think the president's a rapist. That's a way bigger problem. So again, there's people in the TikTok chat who are upset. Somebody said the fuck he did about my sign. Hit the request button, the little pink and blue head down here. I would love to hear. I want to chat with somebody who thinks that Trump won the war. Maybe that's why we can't get callers, because they're afraid of the prompt. Because I said yesterday when this news came out that Trump giving Iran $300 billion is the most dead to rights W for the debate hosts ever, when Trump supporters have for years now been screaming about the $1.7 billion of sanctioned money that Obama released to Iran in the JCPOA that prevented them from making nuclear weapons, which wasn't even taxpayer money. It was sanctioned, seized money that we gave back to them as part of our negotiations. Wise negotiations, in my opinion. But we're talking about taxpayer money. We're just gifting them $300 billion, at least. Might be more than that. And we're giving them $25 billion of sanctioned money back, which, even if we're just going to look at the return sanctioned money, is still more than 10 times what Obama did. I have yet, in the 48 hours since this news broke, been able to find a Trump supporter willing to engage with the question, what the fuck, about this particular topic. I want to find some of the callers who've come on my show who have complained to me about that $1.7 billion, and I want to know their feelings on the $300 billion. But I don't know. I think that they're just going to be afraid to talk to me. Do we have around where the money is coming from? Well, you'd expect it to come from the Treasury, right? Like, it's going to come out of the federal budget, because that's the way it would work. I think it's interesting that this negotiation got met after Trump's war powers were limited by the legislative branch. But I also wonder if they need to approve this sort of deal because it's supposed to be Congress that has the power of purse. It's real muddy. During normal times, I could just say how this stuff works, but it's 2026. Trump is the president, and the rules don't matter. So how exactly is this going to be executed? Bah. Yeah, Let the Wookiee In is pointing out that these people are probably going to have a hard time with the math problem. Is the number 300 bigger than the number 1.7? Yeah, and Aaron is pointing out exactly what I just said. It's not just 300 billion, it's no less than 300 billion. And the claim here is that it's for reconstruction because we bombed a bunch of their infrastructure and stuff. But some people have argued that the damages don't amount to 300 billion. I wouldn't be surprised either way because I think it's easy to get into the hundreds of billions of dollars in damages when you start destroying buildings and bridges and big, concrete infrastructure and stuff. So, like, conceivably, that's, like, in the ballpark. But financially, it might be a win for Iran. Obviously, the whole debacle is a win for nobody because a bunch of innocent people died. Like, people forget about 9/11. People give me shit about being a 9/11 victim. Trump supporters have come so far from patriotism to they've forgotten how important 9/11 was to America to the point that they're going to be mean to me about it. Because my longtime viewers know that's like a thing that affected me really personally growing up in New York. But like, I hope we never forget that we bombed that fucking school. For fuck's sake. Is the top comment going to say that you have to skip to 42 minutes? And no, because there was somebody in the queue. I didn't click them fast enough. Dang, almost had him. This is it. This might just be a friendly episode. This is crazy. What day is it? Is it Wednesday? Yes. Yeah, Wednesday shows are pretty slow normally, but we got 285 people watching. Nismo, whatever you're talking about, please hit the request button here. It's not as good a show if I'm just sitting here talking to the chat. Though maybe I can just engage with the chat. Maybe this can just be one of those shows that's going to be boring in the VOD, but you guys can enjoy it because you've got my attention. Mirrors says Oscar's managed to single-handedly eliminate all support for redacted. Yes, we all know it's Trump when the word is when it's redacted, right? We can just assume that it's Trump that's been redacted. I do appreciate all the likes rolling in. We had to reboot, so we've only been live 8 minutes on TikTok, and 18,000 likes is pretty good. And the viewership's here. Getting some followers, only 3, but that suggests to me that we're not pushed out to the For You page. So I can say, come on, guys, get on it, get us pushed out there. Sam, if you want to know how Trump lost the war, please hit the request button. I'm just not really interested in discussing the prompt with the chat. I already have out of desperation for content because this is a boring episode where nobody wants to talk to me. Ugh. I'm getting lonely. All these MAGA supporters think I do this because I'm lonely, and I'm so lonely, MAGA supporters. Come give me some social engagement, Otherwise, I'm going to have to go outside on this beautiful day in Minnesota. Aaron, I think, is a friendly, but we can give a friendly a minute because we've got nobody in the queue. What's up?
I figured now would be a good time to come up and say it since there was nobody in the queue.
Sure. How old? Wait. You got to follow the rules. How old are you?
Oh God, I'm 41.
I figured you were older than 18, but yeah, I just got to do it. Can't break the rules for the friendlies.
Yeah, no problem. One thing you mentioned just a minute ago was that the $1.7 billion Obama gave Iran was from sanctioned funds. And it was not from sanctioned funds. That is money that we owed Iran plus interest. It was a $400 million principal plus the $1.3 billion in interest that we owed them from weapons they purchased from us during the Iran-Contra scandal, and we never gave them the weapons. We just kept their money.
Oh, that's right. I need to reread the Wikipedia article on the Contra scandal. Thanks for the correction.
No, and so the big difference here between the Obama deal and the Trump deal is that we are giving them money because we destroyed them, whereas Obama was simply returning money that we literally stole from them.
Yeah, well, and I would argue that the source of that original $1.7 billion is so eclipsed by how much smaller the number 1.7 is than the number 300. Like, it just doesn't matter. He could have robbed the bank to give them that money, and it wouldn't be as grievous a violation of what the president is supposed to do for the American people.
Yep, you got that right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will drop down, but I love the show. I think you are doing a fantastic job, and you're doing something much different than most other streamers are doing here, and I really appreciate what you do.
Appreciate you very much. Thanks for hopping up. Chat's mad. Chat always gets mad when I talk about Wikipedia. Yeah, dude, if you want general knowledge about a thing that happened, with the Wikipedia articles, the way to go. You want to understand the Battle of Britain? go fucking read the Wikipedia article. Like it's just it's whatever. The mods are pointing out that the schools are out for the summer, which, yeah, I mean, I'm aware. I was a high school teacher until like a week and a half ago. Yay, quitting my job to do the stream. So, you know, but I guess I'm not surprised to be sifting through more trolls. That's unsurprising for summer. But where have all the Trump supporters gone? I don't know. Wikipedia is questionable, says Monk. Like, nothing's perfect. You have to know how Wikipedia works. How you doing, Monk?
I'm doing well. Seattle, Washington, Harris, 68.
You don't trust Wikipedia? Monk is a friendly, by the way. He's a longtime viewer for everybody. We're just kind of cruising because we're not getting callers today, I don't think.
No, I don't. I participated in some Wikipedia groups. I love comic books. Okay, and I've like, how to put this? I have the actual comic book, and I posted, like, someone says, Wolverine could do X, right? And I go, actually, he can do X, but only up to point Y. He can't otherwise. No, he can do it too. Do it. It's like, I know he can do it. It's like, what are you basing it on? But okay, keep in mind, this is with someone who is a moderator of that group. Wait.
I'm sorry. The chat reminded me. Didn't you donate like money to the Republicans to like dunk on a guest last week or something?
Yeah, but I also donated a huge amount of money to several other parties that I think the chat would like.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I was off my meds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not denying I did it.
Okay, you being off your meds gives me some semblance of leniency about it.
To the same point, I felt bad. I donated $50,000 to a woman's charity.
That's good.
That's in addition to the normal charities that I donate to every month.
If you're that type of philanthropist, I'm still mad at you for donating $300 or $3,000 to the Republicans. But
yeah,
it does sound like
I'm mad at myself. As I said,
well, it sounds like you're being a net. It sounds like you're being a net benefit to the funding of these things if you're telling the truth. Because if you're donating that kind of money to some stuff, I mean that's interesting.
When Harris ran, I gave $2.3 million. I was in a debate with someone, and
how did you? I'm curious about you, Monk. How did you get your fortune?
My family.
Well,
personal wealth,
family wealth.
Yeah, cigarettes and alcohol.
Okay, I'm gonna kick Monk because I think putting those two things in the same sentence together is a little bit of a TOS violation. Because they even talking about getting, alcohol and stuff's hard to talk about on the stream. I don't understand Monk. I love Monk. He's a supporter of the show. But I don't quite understand him. Maybe we can spend some friendly time trying to understand him. I'm trying to salvage this not being friendly time. Bobby on the left is here. Is he farther left than me? Is this going to be one of those episodes? We shall see. Maybe it's just another friendly. Bobby on the left. How old are you?
35.
35. And to Monk in the chat, I know I asked. I was curious. I'm just trying to keep the show moving. Love you, Monk. W's in the chat for Monk. Even though he donated. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I was talking over you.
I was just gonna say I super am a friendly. I am also a high school teacher, and I just like gross curiosity. I want to know how you made the transition.
Oh yeah,
to this and
doing this is clearly a friendly episode, so I'm happy to talk about it some because not everybody sees every episode. But I did have a spiel about it when I did my last day. I was a substitute, so I always have to point out that I give great respect for the full-time public school teachers and high school teachers generally and K-12 teachers generally that need to do the work of maintaining a curriculum for an entire year because that's something I've never had the responsibility for. So I recognize our jobs are very different if you are a full-time teacher. But I, as a substitute and as a pretty frequently used substitute, I got the job and they gave me as many hours as they did because for a very similar reason that I'm successful on this show is I just happen to know a lot of stuff about a lot of things. So if you dump me in a high school chemistry class, I can actually teach the lesson because I understand high school chemistry. My math is pretty good all the way up to calculus. So I can do that sort of thing. The transition though was really just that because I was a sub, I was able to just take less and less shifts as the show became more and more profitable. And I let my coworkers know what was going on because once I started making the news locally, once I was on the 6 o'clock news a lot, they found me anyway. So they all really supported what I'm doing. They're really excited about me out there fighting the good fight. and I can now say publicly, this especially in consideration of what happened yesterday is maybe worth talking about, because during Metro Surge here in Minneapolis, I was doing security work for the school, like getting kids to their work-study programs and stuff, protecting them from the feds, which is fucking insane. That's what my job was for a while. So yeah, it's because I was a substitute, I was able to kind of wean off making my money doing that in a way that they were, happy for me about, and they supported me on. But there is summer work at the school I worked at, and they did offer me even a better job, and they offered me a full-time position for the fall, but I declined it so that I could just, get taken off the schedule and focus on doing the show every day, 10 to 12 Central Time.
Very, very cool. Congrats.
Thanks. That all you got?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Glad to give the explanation to a fellow educator. W's in the chat for Bobby. As we go into, let's see, 52 minutes into the show, are we going to get a debate? We're going to talk to Gavin McCabe. We shall see. How old are you?
Hey, I got a question about your flag behind
How
you.
old are you?
I'm 18.
What year were you born in?
What?
What year were you born in?
Why does that matter?
Because if you're 18, you probably know what year you were born in.
I know, I don't feel comfortable showing that information.
Yeah, I don't believe that that's an adult. Yeah. See, as tempting as it is to get a call in, I will admit sometimes, depends on the caller, depends on how bad the noise is or whatever. Like sometimes, yes, chat, I know that the caller is rolling down the roadway in a metal box. Sometimes I'm perfectly aware of that and I ignore it for the sake of the show. Don't ban me for saying that, TikTok. I don't think the auto mods are smart enough to hear that explanation and know what I'm talking about. I sometimes let things slide, and that's a risk I take as host. But that, never mind the TOS. I'm not interested in dunking on a child about politics. I just got done talking about how I was a high school teacher, and I never once discussed politics with my students. It was very hard. During Surge, I asked HR. I was like, "What do we do if the kids ask us about the security we're offering them? Like, what do we do if they ask us, what do you think about ICE? What do you think about Trump?" Because it so affected daily life here. School was canceled for a while. Attendance was really bad. They had me acting as a bodyguard for students while they were walking down the street. All this craziness was happening. Good student body at the school I was working at. They're great kids. So maybe they just had more responsibility about it. Maybe they'd been given the briefing not to talk about politics with teachers. Because across the board, for all my haters in the chat watching who are afraid to come up and talk to me about this stuff, as an educator, it's so incredibly important to keep the educational environment sanitary of political considerations, because it's just no, we got to teach you math first, then you can have political opinions. We run into that problem on the show all the time. People who have big feelings about politics who never learned their basic math. And as an educator, we just need to not taint the math by giving them political perspective. Even if it's an obvious political perspective, like what ICE is doing is bad, which is not obvious to everybody. But again, we just that division and that partisan nature of it is just so toxic to education that I went through that whole time terrified that I was going to have a conversation with a 16-year-old about politics without their parents present, because I just see that as a real problem. It just never happened. I don't know exactly what I would have said, because when I asked HR what I should say if a student broaches a political conversation during Metro Surge about Metro Surge, they didn't have a good answer for me either. We'd never had a situation where the partisan politics of our country so directly affected what was happening in day-to-day life in such a serious way. I'll remind everybody, we fucking closed the schools. It was so unsafe to navigate Minneapolis as a person who wasn't white that people just weren't showing up to class, so we canceled school for a little while we figured out a better system and got some, I worked at a private school, so the rule, we didn't have to follow the same rules as everybody in the school board, in the public education system here, which is why, by the way, my students were delightful. I've worked in public schools and it is harder, so I feel very privileged as an educator to have kids who were really receptive to the educational figure that I am, and I didn't have to spend as much time on classroom management and stuff, because students were pretty chill. But they were chill through Metro Surge. And I'll talk about this. I almost cried in the classroom once. and it was because some boys in the background. Daniel's upset about my haircut? Oh my God. How sad. Anyway, I was listening to some like boys, goofing off in the back of the class. I forget what we were doing that day. We probably had a test or something that everybody was done, so we were just goofing off for 15 minutes before the end of class because Oskar was the cool sub. And the kids were they were joking around with each other, comparing the IDs that they were carrying. Like one of them had a passport, one of them was old enough to have like a learner's permit, so they were showing that off, and then one of them had a passport card, and they were all like, "Oh, you got a passport card? That's so cool." And I am like standing there in the front of the room, like watching these boys joke around. One of them snatched the passport card out of the hand of the other kid and like ran around the room saying like, "Gotcha, ICE is gonna get you now," and like, I hope they remember that moment when they're older. I hope that one sticks, because as an educator, it was heartbreaking to see. Like, I so commend those students for being lighthearted about what they were going through, because they aren't stupid. They knew what was going on, but like, I as the adult in the room could take in the gravity of what I was seeing. I'm seeing kids during playtime at school joking with each other about the papers they need to carry so that they don't get taken away by the government. Children. I'm talking about children. I'm talking about minors. I was very sad to not be more outspoken about being involved in Metro Surge, both as an educator, but then also when I wasn't at work, like outside of school, because I was busy chasing ice around, making videos of them dunking on it. That original video that got Oskar Quentin started, my whole social media platform, is me chasing ice agents around Whittier, and I got a clip where I yelled at an ice agent, "You're going to move to Argentina when this is over?" And then he looked at me really confused, and I just, like, out of complete frustration, just, like, said, like, "Oh, God, you don't even know the history. You didn't get the joke." And then, like, the crowd behind me laughs. It's, like, this 11-second video that got, like, millions of views. And that's why I had enough followers that people were, like, there's already a handful of people willing to watch when I started live streaming. But I went through that whole time not able to talk very much about exactly how the signal chats worked, because as we saw yesterday, it's secretive work that the government's after us for doing, even though it's constitutionally protected. 15 of the people who organized the large group of people I was involved with were arrested for what they did yesterday. And when I say a group, like when I say that I'm in this group, I'm saying me and tens of thousands of other people were kind of the foot soldiers of this operation to keep eyes on ICE, which is perfectly legal to do. So I was doing that outside of work, making content about it. I was doing it at work, protecting kids from the ICE agents. Couldn't make content about that. I was terrified of getting doxxed. Can't believe I made it all the way through the semester to the end, and then was able to finish my last day of school. My last day as a teacher was the last day of school at my school. So I got to, I don't think it was technically the last day the building was open, but it was the last testing day or whatever. So there's so much I've had to keep kind of bottled up about my experience with this. And I'm still a little bit in that boat. Obviously I can't, speak super openly about a bunch of the stuff that happened in the signal chats. I can't speak super openly about, how well I knew some of those people, but some of that's public information already. So I don't, I know I'm not protecting myself or really harming myself in any way by just alluding to the fact that these are, on the indictments, it's some familiar names. I'll just, that's as far as I'll go in public about it. But it's hard. I have this, you guys get this window into what's going on in my life, and it's a window that's colored by a lot of things. It gets colored by the TikTok filter. The YouTube chat got a fun moment with me while I was between streams while I was rebooting. I yelled a bunch of stuff I'm not allowed to say on TikTok. And I have to also not get deplatformed from the other platforms. There's other things I could say and talk about that I think are serious topics worth talking about, but are just completely untenable to even broach on social media. And then I have to worry about the security of people I consider to be comrades in this thing and myself. I was really worried about getting arrested yesterday. I'm glad I didn't, obviously, but it was on my mind. So I know I'm just kind of rambling at this point. But if you made it this far into this weird episode of the Oskar Quentin show where there aren't any callers, then clearly you like listening to me yap and you care about this stuff. So I can take this opportunity to just talk about it a little bit more, because it's frustrating to us here in Minnesota that people watch these news stories and they don't realize that, like, were the people who were indicted yesterday, did they probably do some things along the way that are, like, technically illegal? Like, you know, in the same way that a protester standing in the street too long when a police officer tells them not to is breaking the law. It's like, yeah, sure, there's stuff we can throw the books at them for. The conspiracy charges don't make sense. You know, like, these big charges don't make sense. The whole FBI investigation doesn't make sense. It's an invasion of our privacy. You're allowed to have secret chats, even if they're enormous. You know, like, there's the fact that they infiltrate people's private communications and use these search warrants to confiscate devices so that everybody who knows these people has to unfriend them everywhere, delete all their messages, delete all their chats, like, try to scrub their online presence of them existing. It's like this terror campaign against a group of people who organized the efforts that really made people in Minneapolis feel safe. There's a long period, and still this way for a lot of people who are afraid to go to the grocery store, afraid to go run their errands, afraid to work their jobs. So we're talking about people who organized efforts to alert the neighborhood to the things that those people were afraid of. We're talking about people who organize mutual aid, getting those people groceries and getting their rent paid, getting their children cared for if their schools were closed. Like, there's all this grassroots effort, all this community, all the stuff that I would urge the people farther left than me to pay more attention to, which is like community building and really making sure that your community is one that can keep itself safe. Like, all this amazing stuff that happened that kept us, you know, that got us through it. They come after these people. I did some of the footwork. I wasn't an organizer. I just went out and observed the vehicles, followed them, took pictures and stuff like that. Made my dumb Instagram shorts about it. And they killed a couple of us. You know, like, that's what Alex Preddy and Ray Good were doing. They were just responding to what was going on in their neighborhood. So it's frustrating that I sit here and talk to people for whom, like, they just can't even imagine the idea that this whole situation in Minneapolis is like this community effort to keep ourselves safe and to keep our community happy and prosperous in the way that it is. Because, like, life is really good in Minneapolis on average. Like, we have our couple issues we deal with. Every place does. Every place has some kind of crime that they have to deal with. I live in kind of a crappy neighborhood. You know, like, I live in a neighborhood where it's rude for me to not walk. If I have a friend over who's female, it's rude for me to not walk her to her car if she leaves, you know, late at night. Like, it's not, nowhere's perfect, but quality of life here is really good. And ICE came and fucked it up in a very serious way. And people just, like, don't give a shit. They just don't care that it's real to us. They don't care that I had to get up at 6 a.m. and go be a bodyguard for children so that they can go to school. Like, that's not an important cost to them. When we talk about the cost of immigration and customs enforcement, like, they don't recognize the societal cost of children being terrified to go to school. How does one call in? There's a request button down here. It's a pink and blue head just to the right of the comments section. This episode's kind of a dud. We're not getting any callers, which is a good thing. I mean, we could celebrate that if Trump supporters are getting hard to find. But for the show, it's kind of a bummer. So I'm just yapping about some stuff I'm feeling today. Yesterday was all the feels. I was very stressed out yesterday. I was very worried for my friends. I was very worried for myself, and it has me reflecting a lot on all this stuff. And you know, especially in the couple of weeks since I have been done teaching. It's been about a week or two. Now I've just been doing a lot of reflecting on this whole time, because now I don't have to, like, hide all that away. I don't have to ignore to the public. All those times I said I have a lot of educational experience. Sometimes that was a day where I was a teacher in the morning and I was doing the show in the afternoon, and I'm sitting there pretending that I used to be a teacher so that I can talk about my educational experience. Fresh Jonah B. How old are you?
I'm about to be 46.
About to be 46. Could you get a little closer to the phone? There's a lot of noise going on. I'm a little desperate for a caller, so I'll probably forgive you if you're still noisy, but I would appreciate it if you tried to get the noise under control.
I will do my best. I am at work, though.
Okay, you sound better there. Are you a Trump supporter?
Oh, no, I'm not. Actually, I'm calling in for kind of a goofy, what's it called? Grammar question.
Okay.
About politics, I guess.
Okay.
The LGBTQ community. It's nothing against that community whatsoever. My question is more about grammar.
Okay, hold on. You're breaking up. I know you're asking about the LGBTQ community. I'm not.
Like, Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I have to kick you for the connection. None of it's coming true.
The question.
Oh yeah, and it's taking him
sorry.
a very. Okay, there was a sorry. That was a bad connection issue, and because it took you so long to stop making noise when I disconnected you, it tells me that there was a big delay, so we probably weren't going to be able to have a conversation. You can try again if you want to hop back in the. If you want to hop back in the queue, we can just see if it was a bad connection. Foxy Roxy, who's a friend of the show, wants to hop up. I think it's friendlies today, guys. I think this is just the Oscar show. Oscar and buddies. How you doing, Foxy Roxy?
Good. How are you?
I'm frustrated. I want to debate.
I fully feel that, knowing what I know and stuff. But I was gonna ask you maybe to bring a little bit of joy is like who or what is like the Mandani of Minnesota or like voting wise because or some like
Well, I mean, generally, Fry's pretty unpopular among people who are politically aligned with me. That's the mayor, Jacob Fry. And then Walls is in so much hot water about the Smalley fraud, which I don't even think he's responsible for, or even complicit in some sort of like negligence charge or something like that. He's not running again. So there's something of a vacuum for establishment Democrats that appeal to people like me. Here in Minnesota, which is a shame. I was joking at the beginning of the stream about how this crazy guy who's running for governor wants me to be his lieutenant governor, and I have like a pinch of temptation to do it for the lulz because I don't want him to win and I don't want to be lieutenant governor. But I think it would be very funny if I ran as this crazy guy's lieutenant governor and spent the whole campaign trashing him and all the other politicians who aren't fighting for the rights of the people. Like the question is that beneficial for me to do? Am I further muddying the waters by fucking around in that way? Or if I did that, would it actually get some attention on the fact that we don't have a good answer to your question? Because there's nobody I'm excited about in politics in Minnesota. Which is hard, like the leftists want to pretend that I love the Democrats.
everybody has their good and bad points, so it's just like it's almost like a lesser of two evils. And I just like when it comes time to vote, it's like it would be nice to have like some information to help. Because like there are some good points about certain people, and there's some really bad points, and it's like how do you sit there? How do you decide? Like
I will say when it comes to that local stuff in particular, where I maybe have more of a vested interest, but this is true generally of all the endorsements I offer. I really, really am hesitant to offer any endorsements whatsoever on the show, because
right.
I mean, I'm not against it. I am urging people to vote for Tellerico in Texas. Like that's one I'm really excited about. I think he's going to do good things for the country if he gets elected, and I want that. I'm so convinced of that from him that I'm willing to like bet my name on it and say that I'm excited to see his performance if he wins his Senate seat in Texas, and I'll take the egg on the face if he does a bad job because I've endorsed him as thoroughly as I have. I just need to be careful because I'm really proud of the reputation I've developed for myself for being no nonsense, for being willing to disagree with my own audience. I get in trouble for the odd thing I believe here or there. Sometimes I'm wrong, like that happens. Right. I do just get stuff wrong. A friendly called in earlier and corrected me about something I was saying about that Iran money, which is important and good that people do. So I'm so much more interested in getting people involved in politics and educated about politics than I am telling them the conclusions to arrive at. I'd much rather equip people to come up with better conclusions than preach about my own conclusions, which right. I know that with a lot of callers that's not going to happen, but I hope my audience is aware that when I see that that's the sort of caller that either for them or the people watching the conversation, like that's the real benefit that can happen. That's what I go for, but very hesitant on endorsements.
No, I totally get that. And one other thing is like I think people are like hung up on like, oh, people are getting support. Well, that support amount hasn't changed despite the increase in cost of everything. And it's devastating to families.
Yeah, well, and that's why I'm so excited about Tellerico, and I can give him as just I'm answering for the wrong state because he's in Texas, but he so clearly cares about cost of living. I believe that how difficult life is for the average American is paramount on James Tellerico's mind. Give the guy an Oscar for lying if that's not true. People say they're all evil. They all want, these monstrous things. They all want to continue the genocide in Palestine, which is, I think, a perfectly valid criticism of the Democratic Party. I think that on the global stage, like, America is a fascist country. I think the leftists are right about that. But I just don't think it's constructive. I don't think it's helpful to, like, flip the table and say that we shouldn't vote. I just have to be very careful about the people I actually endorse. But before we get to Iowa Golfer, because I am actually very excited to talk to Iowa Golfer, I will just say that, like, the line that I have found most effective against the leftists who are so disenfranchised with voting that they just want to say that I'm a bastard, I'm a Nazi for supporting any kind of Democratic voters at all. I'm a total Nazi for being excited that Iowa Golfer is going to be voting for a Democratic candidate for governor of his state, if I remember correctly. Like, I'm so evil for that. But then I just point out to them, your leftist position where you want to flip the system and, like, get rid of capitalism and do all of this, like, really extreme stuff. Philosophically, I agree with you. I disagree with you pragmatically. We talk about that a lot on the show. But the line I've been finding really effective with the leftists lately is, if the Republicans win the midterms in a big way, it's probably going to be illegal pretty soon to be a leftist. Like, you don't get a chance to even preach your ideology if Project 2025 continues. They arrested 15 people who were dissenters yesterday. Who's next? So, I mean, that's why I think voting is important. That's why I think we need to work on the midterms to make sure that we still get to talk about this stuff after the midterms, because I don't think we'll get to if they win. If they maintain control of the House and the Senate, we're fucking cooked, chat. Got anything else, Foxy? Oh, Foxy's muted. You there?
I was just gonna.
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry. Yeah, that was just the two things that I was gonna mention.
Okay, I appreciate you. And thanks for messaging me resources and stuff. W's in the chat for Foxy. She's a friend of the show, helps out with some stuff. Iowa Golfer.
How's it going?
Terrible. Nobody will talk to me today. I'm very lonely. No, it's just been a slow stream. Hard to get callers today. You're 27 years old, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's been a little while since you've been on, so I'll just remind some of the people who are newer to the stream that this is a regular caller who I consider to be really good faith. You and I have some interesting conversations about supporting Trump and all that sort of stuff. What do you want to talk about today?
It's up to you, man. I was invited up here. I was just listening to you.
Sure. Well, okay. You as you're a caller who has demonstrated they're capable of being critical of Trump when it's obvious to you that he's worth criticizing. How do you feel about his performance on the Iran war? The news has changed a lot since you and I last talked.
So I honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to you, dude. I haven't really been paying attention to it. What's going on? Apparently, there's a peace deal. I don't know how concrete it is. Honestly, I don't really care. I just had a son born 2 weeks ago, so I've been pretty busy.
Oh, that's right. Your wife was pregnant. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the mod that invited you up is actually just saying in the chat that they did it by accident. So you can stay up or not. It's up to you. The current news with Iran, though, is that if we are to assume that this deal it will be lasting, which we can be skeptical about, Trump deals don't last very long. So we violate ceasefires pretty quickly. But the reason I'm not so skeptical this time is because the legislative branch, Congress, has restricted his war powers. They voted on that. So it looks like he's maybe going to have his leash shortened in terms of being the commander-in-chief a little bit. So it makes sense that he's losing negotiating power in the war. And because he's losing negotiating power in the war, the current agreement involves giving Iran $300 billion. We're essentially paying a ransom to get out of the war because Iran has demonstrated they can keep the strait closed, and that's going to be really bad for us. And Trump is not getting help from anybody. So those things being the case, with the asterisk that this deal might not be lasting, but if it is lasting, if it is the deal that sticks, we lost this fucking war. That's what that means to me.
Yeah, if that's what it means to you, then I have no reason to argue that. That's fine.
Yeah, I didn't figure you would, just because you're more reasonable than that. Because I've
like I said, everybody can feel the way they want to feel. I'm not going to argue with somebody based on their feelings. what I think is good and what somebody else thinks is good, it can be two completely different things, and that doesn't make you wrong because you think a different way than I do.
Yeah, well, yeah, I might push back on that depending on the type of claim we're talking about. But yeah, I wonder. There's almost part of me that thinks that this Iran deal is so grievously, obviously an L for the U.S. It's so much more expensive than the JCPOA was. It's so much, we get so much less in it. It just isn't better. Trump didn't leave the campsite better than he found it. He's made it worse and spent $300 billion, it looks like. I think that's so.
Do you think that we should keep on going with the war until we can get a better deal?
I'm not even necessarily opposed to us accepting this deal. We just have to recognize that if we were in a situation where what we had to do to get out of the bad predicament is give Iran $300 billion, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a war ending for the price of $300 billion. I'm not okay with a president starting a war that just a few months later he had to pay $300 billion to end. It's a demonstration of how boneheaded the whole endeavor was in the first place. I recognize that we're going to get a shitty deal.
If I'm not mistaken, we've paid countries that we've been to war with for like the past 100+ years. I mean, we've paid money to Germany, we've paid money to Japan,
yeah,
we've paid money to Vietnam, we've paid money to. I mean,
well, and that's why I'm not. That's why I'm not actually like mad at them for brokering.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not mad at them for brokering this deal. Right, completely. The problem is that, like, the broad timeline here is that Obama brokered a deal that involved $1.7 billion of like funds released to Iran that were like. I need to like read about exactly where that money came from because I had it wrong at the beginning of the stream and one of my fans corrected me. But it's like $1.7 billion that had some interest on it. It was for a deal that went south a long time ago, the Contra affair with Iran. It wasn't exactly us just like giving them the money, but it doesn't matter where exactly it came from because it's $1.7 billion, and we're talking about $300 billion because Trump threw that deal away. Biden couldn't get it back during his term, and then now Trump's president again, and then he went to war, and a bunch of people died, and we used up a bunch of our missiles, and we lost some planes, we lost some servicemen, and we killed a bunch of innocent people. We fucked up the global market because of fuel prices with the Strait of Hormuz being closed for as long as it has been, and then here we are paying $300 billion to get out of it, and I'm perfectly willing to admit that $300 billion might be a reasonable price tag to get us out of this snafu, but I just got to keep saying Trump is the one who put us into it.
Yeah, that's fine. I have no arguments with that.
Yeah, I didn't figure you would. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna fault you at all for not following politics lately. You're taking care of a newborn baby. What's the name? I'm curious.
Name's Crew.
Crew. How's that spelled? C-R-E-W?
K-R-E-W.
K-R-E-W. Crew. Unique. I appreciate a name that has a sneaky K in it.
Yep.
Well, unless you've got something you want to discuss, I don't want to keep taking up your time. I'll let you down unless you.
No, I'm back to work now. So like I said, I was just listening. I listen in to you almost every day. So I'm just kind of, like I said, you bring up something, I'll play off you. I mean, I don't really care if you want to have a caller.
I'm still pretty upset about the Epstein files.
About everything.
How do you feel about the Epstein files these days?
I mean, I think were the Epstein files mishandled? Yeah. Is it the greatest injustice and most grievous thing that's ever happened in U.S. history? Not even close. I mean, I even watched The View yesterday for the first time in like 10 years. And J.D. Vance had explained, like there's like 3 million documents or something, or pages. A bunch of it is just like doubles. A bunch of it has to be ordered released by a court, and a bunch of it can't be released. I mean, I don't know what the exact numbers of all that stuff is. I mean, what I still understand is I even talked to my representatives, and he had said, we have full access to these documents. I've read the unredacted stuff, or the redacted stuff. And if there is anything super, super grievous, it would be out there. And this is coming from one of my Democratic representatives, that they can read these things. They can read the secret stuff, quote unquote.
Well, they get less redacted versions.
Is there anything damning in there? Like Stone Cold damning Trump did this, and they go, no, there's not.
Well, the problem I have with that is I think I've made this point to you before, which is that I'm not surprised that a Democratic candidate running for anything in otherwise red Iowa is...
No, they're not even up for re-election. I asked them. They're not even up for re-election.
Sure, but they still don't want to lose favor. They might have political careers beyond just their current term in whatever seat they're in. So I'm not terribly surprised that some Democrats are also being pretty blasé about it. But it's almost all the Democrats that are horribly upset about it. And you brought up some information that's true. There's a bunch of boring shit in the Epstein files. There's a bunch of duplicate documents where a piece of evidence was a piece of evidence in 2 cases, so the same document shows up twice here or there. It's just the way it is. It's 6 million documents, and I wouldn't be surprised if more than half of them have nothing to do with any crimes committed. Just evidence that was collected. Documents from the drawer, the drawer of Jeffrey Epstein on his desk. Probably had some pretty scary documents in it. It probably also had like a piece of a receipt for a lawnmower that he bought or something. That's just
Taco Bell order, yeah.
Yeah. Like that stuff makes it into the files because it just gets swept up in the investigation. So like a bunch of it's boring and repetitive and stuff. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of our lawmakers who are going behind closed doors and looking at the more redacted files and finding that there are discrepancies in Trump's story and in the story being pushed by the Republicans generally. And that doesn't even get to the fact that the law isn't being followed. We passed a law. There's so much public interest around the Epstein files being released and getting justice for these people that we passed a law and the law isn't being followed.
The biggest thing is can you circumvent one law by passing another?
What's the law that's being circumvented here?
There's laws that protect victims and other parts of these documents from being released.
Yeah, and
the
law
you cannot circumvent those laws by saying you have to release them.
The Epstein Files Transparency Act has exceptions for those sorts of cases. It's written directly into it. The issue that we have with the Epstein Files is that Trump's DOJ and the FBI have been caught totally red-handed, redacting in ways that are not allowable by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, because as you just pointed out, there are certain types of redactions that they have to do or have to make a good faith effort to do because it is 6 million files. I can forgive them for making a mistake here or there. And that has to do with protecting witnesses' names. They failed to do that. They didn't do a good job protecting witnesses' names, but they've also redacted people who are clearly adult perpetrators of crimes. There's numerous examples of Epstein files where you can point to a name and say, show me legally why this name is redacted. It makes no fucking sense at all. And there's just such a mountain of those cases. And the only thing anybody could ever fall back on to say that there's a reason to redact those names is because there's an ongoing investigation against that person that we don't want to sully. And that argument would have been a perfectly fine argument 6 years ago. But the investigations are over. Todd Blanche says it's not being investigated. Trump says it's over. Those are the people in charge at the end of the day. Ghislaine Maxwell's last appeals ended at the end of Biden's term, which is when it became legally possible for the Epstein Files Transparency Act to not be in conflict with other laws. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, prior to the end of Ghislaine Maxwell's appeals, would have been directly in conflict with existing law in the way that you described. But once the documents were unsealed, it no longer was, as long as we make those sensible protections for the victims. So I just asked the big question again. There's so many people who are obviously guilty, according to the Epstein files. Why have none of them been charged?
It's a good question. Yeah, I don't have an answer for you. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a cover-up. I think that if we look at the paper trails, and the Epstein files is a big paper trail that they still haven't released half of, and the half that they've released is redacted to shit. But if we look at the paper trail we have, there's a bunch of in broad daylight corruption about it. It should be unsurprising that Donald Trump is picking attorneys for Attorney General who have benefited him in the past. Pam Bondi was in charge of the Epstein investigation as Attorney General, and she was in charge of the investigations of Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Not directly, because she was the AG of the state, not like the like chief prosecutor on a case or whatever. But I don't think it's a coincidence that the somebody who had legal lenience for Trump in Florida then became the AG, got fired as a scapegoat, and replaced with yet another lawyer who has personal ties to Trump. Wasn't to do with the Epstein files, but Todd Blanche, the current AG, was responsible for helping him cover up the things he did relating to the 2020 elections, which we can't talk about too much on TikTok because of censorship. But it's just bottom to top corruption. Why are there so many files in the Epstein files where it shows a person whose name is known because the name is there, but it's redacted, so the DOJ knows their name, but it describes that person doing a thing where if I did that thing, my life and career would be over. I'd go to prison.
Yeah, like I said, it's just bureaucratic stuff. I mean, bureaucratic stuff doesn't make sense to me. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me. A lot of it doesn't make sense to you. A lot of it doesn't make sense to any normal people. These people don't live normal lives like me and you. They live very, very privileged lives. I think that much is clear, and they're just being protected by other elites.
Yeah, I guess where I'll push back is that I think I do understand it. I think I've been following this case a lot longer than a lot of other debate hosts. Maybe I can pull the card of like having been fingers on the pulse for a long time, because I remember being excited that Jeffrey Epstein had been incarcerated. I remember the day when he was found dead. I just like, everybody got their conspiracy theory wheels turning on that. But I've followed it for so long that it's not mysterious to me what's going on. It's just flagrantly corrupt. It's just blatantly corrupt. It's just obviously evil. I don't think it's very confusing.
Yeah, and like I said, the thing I would look at too, I mean, I'm more than willing to hold this administration accountable, but we need to hold the other administration accountable that had also the DOJ that had this, that was not investigating these other people. We need to have,
See, that's a talking point,
fits,
though. And
when goes on
are you talking about Biden not releasing them?
No, I'm not talking about Biden not releasing them. I'm just talking about his DOJ not doing their due diligence and investigating it.
Well,
because if they investigated
that gets to this interesting.
That it was founded.
That gets to this interesting little conundrum about how the DOJ works, which is to such benefit for the talking points of the right, because they're able to say things like, well, why didn't Biden get in there and do it? When at the end of the day, it's generally not the president's job to deal with the day-to-day
I'm not saying that it was the president's job. I'm saying it was their DOJ. It was his DOJ's job, who was already investigating Epstein.
Right.
We can both agree. Both DOJs dropped the ball. Both DOJs fucked up, and they didn't do what they're supposed to do. I don't have an issue with that.
That's fair to say, and that's fair to say about the Democrats generally, but there's this big, in broad daylight scandal that the Democrats haven't participated in. Biden didn't violate the law. Biden didn't spend a week trying to meet with the people who were going to vote on the law to get them to not pass the law, flip last minute to pretend he wanted it the whole time, and then once the law passed, violated the law. That's a scandal. That's huge. That's bigger than Watergate. Never mind all the stuff that preceded it. Did the American justice system, whoever's president aside, fail the victims of Jeffrey Epstein? Obviously. Fucking yes. Obviously. Almost every justice system has failed the victims of sexual assault. So we can look at that as a systemic problem, and we can be upset that Biden didn't go farther out of his way to do more about it. But we can't say that Biden had some
anything to do with Biden, dude. I'm not shitting on Biden.
When you say the other administration,
I'm not saying that this was Biden's fault. I'm saying it was his DOJ. His administration, the DOJ falls under his administration. Now, is he in charge of his DOJ? Kinda, I guess. Not really. I mean, I wouldn't even go as far as to say that. I mean, his AG, I don't even know who his AG was, to be honest with you. Don't really care. I would look into them. Be like, what the fuck were you doing? Like, how did this not get investigated?
If the Epstein Files Transparency Act, like I agree with what you just said. Everybody involved in this who helped cover it up should be investigated. And it is because the public so agrees with both you and me about that we passed this law during Trump's current term back in November to try to get the answers there. Because if the Epstein files were released in the unredacted form that they're supposed to be according to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, we would be able to say, here's a person who worked at the DOJ who covered this up. Why did this cross your desk and not turn into a conviction? Why did this piece of evidence not get included in this other case? Why was this suit thrown out? We can start looking at all these paper trails and start finding people responsible, whether they did something bad to women or children or boys also, or if it's because they covered up the actions of people who did those bad things. We can't answer those questions until we get the Epstein files released, and the only reason they're not released is because of Donald Trump. And that's clear. You know, if you're following the news stories, if you read the headlines as they came out, if you read his statements on it, if you watch the interviews where he loses his temper with reporters that bring the topic up with him, it's just clear in broad daylight that he is working fastidiously to keep this under wraps until he dies. And I don't think he cares about it going farther than that, because he doesn't care about what's going to happen to him after he dies, I don't think, or to his legacy or to his people. I really think he is fundamentally selfish in that way. So I think he's just trying to kick the can, and it's because of, straightforwardly, Iowa golfer, I think it is because of the apathy of voters such as yourself that it's been able to be kicked in this way. I think that if there was more public outcry, this would be easier to address. I think if there was more public outcry about this, more Republicans would be compelled to actually go ahead and impeach Trump for any of the many illegal things he's doing, including violating this freshly passed law. That's a high crime and misdemeanor, in my opinion. Violating a law that you yourself pretended you wanted passed after spending a week trying to get it to stop passed. High crimes and misdemeanors for an impeachment is up to the interpretation of Congress. But I think you're being willfully ignorant if you don't think that's an accurate assessment that I'm making about his high crimes and misdemeanors. But the Republicans are loyal to him. They're loyal to their career, and they don't want to be turned on by Trump. They don't want to be turned on by MAGA. And it's because of that. It's because of the apathy that even your type of voter, Iowa golfer, because you're not the average Trump supporter. You're far more reasonable than almost everybody I talk to. But you're apathetic about this. It doesn't boil your blood that these people are hiding the crimes of pedophiles. It boils my blood. Makes me very fucking angry. If I'm ever within earshot of any of the politicians who voted on this stuff, who voted against the Epstein Files Transparency Act before it got forced and they all flipped, like I'm gonna exercise my first about it. I'm gonna be yelling. These people shouldn't be able to eat dinner in public without getting yelled at. That's what I honestly think of anybody who voted against the Epstein Files Transparency Act before it got passed. It's inexcusable behavior that so violates the will of the people. The law exists because it was the will of the people for it to be released. So yeah, I think you need to take into consideration that you wouldn't want this sort of apathy if the victims were your loved ones.
Yeah, like I said, I don't find myself really disagreeing with anything you just said. But like I said, I mean,
Well, what I just said, in summary...
Does Trump have some fault with this? Yes, Trump absolutely has some fault with this. But it's not just Trump.
Right, but you are apathetic.
Up. That's fine.
You are apathetic towards the problem that it is that the current president, who's doing all this corrupt shit to have more power in the White House than he's supposed to have, that's a big deal, Like, there are probably bigger monsters than Trump in the Epstein files. Got to catch those guys too. I'm not saying that Trump is the worst person who's ever walked the earth, because a lot of people who are the worst people who qualify to run as the worst person who's ever existed, the worst person alive, are probably smart enough to live a private life and not let it be televised. Trump just happens to be the president, which makes him the most dangerous person alive. He doesn't necessarily have to be the most reprehensible person. It's the ratio of the power he has against how bad a person he is that is the problem. And I think that, in summary of what I just said, that you said that you agreed with, I just want to clarify that my broader point here is that your apathy towards this is a problem. Your apathy towards getting justice for these victims is among the reasons why these victims have not had justice yet.
I just explained to you earlier that I want justice for these victims. But me going out and screaming at the top of my lungs because there's bootlickers that won't do anything, that's not going to change anything. Now, the way I vote, that can change things.
I think that people still underestimate what it means for people to be outspoken. I'm pretty disappointed in No Kings lately as a protest movement. I was pretty excited about No Kings 3 because the turnout was really good, but I think we've really biffed it on messaging from there. And I think it's people like yourself, Iowa, who are more in the middle based on my time talking to you, more reasonable, more willing to hear reason. I think it's people like you being upset and outspoken that can make a difference in your community, because people should be mad. People should be angry. People should yell pedophile protector at Donald Trump every time he's in the public. I don't know why they don't. It happens plenty. It's happening more and more. But like what I just said about how these people who voted against this stuff, who've worked in their political careers to protect pedophiles from justice, they shouldn't be able to eat dinner in public without somebody reminding them of that. I think that should follow them. As a public servant, you hang up some of the privacy. I wouldn't want I wouldn't want one of my callers doxxed and for people to go harass them. But if you're a public figure, if you make yourself a public servant, you got to own up to the things you do. But you can say it's fine that I think that, but what I'm saying is that I actually don't think it's fine that you don't think that. I think it should be a bigger issue to you. At the end of the day, here I am having.
I just agreed with you, dude.
I
literally just agreed with you.
I think you agree with me about the facts that I'm saying about the Epstein case, but if you're agreeing are you agreeing with me that you are personally too apathetic about this topic?
No. I'm agreeing that more needs to be done and should be done, and the people who didn't do more to fix this need to be held accountable.
Right. So I recognize,
including President Trump and his administration.
right, but it's not just like the fact that you said including, but not including and especially. Like that's the part where I'm saying that the apathy is the problem. Is that like you recognize
It's not, especially. It's not just his administration.
But
there is a entire entourage of these people. I mean, Republicans, Democrats, Independents. Well, I don't fucking care what party you belong to. If you're protecting these people, you're a piece of shit.
Correct, but Trump is the kingpin of this whole problem.
Trump is the head of the Republican Party. The Republicans, some of them, I don't know who they are. I think the Iowa Republicans actually voted for this act. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Voted to do this. I can vote for Iowa representatives. I can't vote to change Illinois representatives or Minnesota representatives or Colorado representatives. I can vote for the president. I can vote for my local officials and my federal officials that represent me.
Right. But I mean, you're also, but I think you underestimate the degree to which people's general sentiment about these issues is colored by their own lives and their own relationships with people in their lives. I think every single person should be outspoken about the fact that the president is covering up a massive pedophile ring that harmed a ton of people and almost nobody got caught for it. The two leaders got caught, but there's hundreds of people who should be who should have been incarcerated for what they did in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. I think Donald Trump is one of them, but it's not just, my issue with the way that you talk about this, sorry, I gotta clear my throat. The issue I have with the way that you talk about this is that you act as though Donald Trump just happens to be a random other guy who is also involved. But I'm not even going to pretend that he's like Jeffrey Epstein's best friend or right-hand man. I think that that's kind of subjective and not really like worth it as a talking point. So it's not so much that his involvement with it is all that spectacular. It's that his involvement in the cover-up of it is spectacular. He is appointing the people in the Department of Justice who are actively working against justice in this thing. He's directing the Republican Party because you just said yourself that he's the leader of the Republican Party, whether or not he's president or not, because he was still leader of the Republican Party during the 4 years that Biden was president. Like, he's the problem. His cult of personality, the fact that people believe him when he talks about the Epstein files instead of believing me when I talk about the Epstein files, even though I have the evidence, even though I'm really at this point pretty knowledgeable at just pulling up examples from the Epstein files that we've covered on the show. I know so many examples of the wrongdoing shown through the Epstein files that when people say, well, show me where Trump did this, and I go, here's an example of Trump doing exactly that, because there's so many of them. And it's this apathy towards this problem where we have somebody involved in this scheme who is now in charge of everything in this country because he controls all three branches of the government because of the loyalty in the Republican Party that's been fostered over the last decade or so. And people believe what he says because the media culture has
you gotta be careful when you speak like that, because now you're speaking like he has complete control, like overall power to do whatever he wants, and that's just not true.
But he's eroding the systems that are supposed to protect him from being able to do, or protect us from him being able to do whatever he wants.
It's not working because he's still being checked on things. He just got voted down for his war powers.
Right. He gets the
Supreme Court has checked him on several things, saying you can't do this.
He gets the occasional L, but he's using this strategy of trying 1,000 things, and then a bunch of them don't work, and then you get to call in and say, well, he tried this and it didn't work. He tried this and it didn't work. He tried this and it didn't work. He filed an executive order last year that made it illegal to be a protester in a lot of ways because he said that he labeled you a terrorist for being anti-fascist. If you're against fascism,
does an executive order mean that that's going to be the law?
15 people were arrested in crimes.
Does an executive order make something a law?
No, but he's behaving as though it does.
We all know it doesn't. Trump's ridiculous. I'm not going to argue with you that a lot of the things that he does is ridiculous. I'm not going to argue with that.
Some people I know who've done the work of protecting Minneapolis from ICE agents during Metro Surge were arrested yesterday as an extension for that sort of terrorism that he made up in the executive order. They're being listed as conspiracy against the government, against law enforcement, because they're like Antifa members, this terrorist group that he defined into existence with an executive order. I had been warning people since he passed the executive order a year ago that these are the sort of arrests we can expect to see once it gets established and forgotten that he made.
I just want to be sure here because I was listening to you earlier. You had said Were they doing things that technically are illegal? Yes, they were. So we got to be straightforward here. They were doing illegal things and they were arrested.
Well,
Were they arrested for the right reasons or political reasons? Maybe.
I didn't say that every single one of them had done something that done. I just recognized that I know that some of them did, and I haven't read through the indictment yet. It's 92 pages, I think. It's 90-something pages, something like that. It's a big document that I need to read in my downtime. But I also recognize that if we wanted to have that level of justice, if we wanted to make it that illegal to step out of line, where are the droves of right-wing instigators and influencers who are being arrested for doing exactly the same things? Impeding traffic, assaulting people, threatening people, making terroristic threats, interstate stalking, all of these like particular charges they're throwing at them. There are so many people who are guilty of that. Why are they targeting these people who locally are seen as heroes for protecting the community instead of going after the people who are
arrested these people in Minnesota?
The FBI?
It was the FBI.
I mean, I don't know who physically served the warrants. I would imagine that ICE was probably involved in the warrants being served. That tends to be how they operate. That was the case when they arrested one of these 15 people was already in custody because he was arrested back in January. I want you to answer what I just said though, because like, what if overnight every person left of the political spectrum got arrested for jaywalking? Like, what if they made jaywalking?
We can't just argue what ifs. What ifs is not a statement for an argument.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We got to be able to talk about hypotheticals. Yes, it is. You're wrong about that. It's really important to be able to deal with what ifs, because when you vote for somebody, you're answering the question, what if they become president or representative or whatever it is. It's a what if when you get asked if you support somebody's candidacy. It's a what if you support a law or not. What if this law gets passed? Will the outcome be good? You have to be able to track hypotheticals. And what I'm saying is that Trump made this executive order, which basically, because people don't understand the law as well as you do, it doesn't make it law. You recognize that. But it gives him an excuse to say that these people are terrorists. So if he had an executive order that said that jaywalking is now way more illegal, you go to jail for 30 days if you get caught jaywalking, and then a year later they start doing it, but they're only arresting liberals. You're only, you were jaywalking, 30 days in jail for Oskar. He doesn't get to do his show for a whole month because he got caught jaywalking. Never mind the fact that everybody who works at Fox News jaywalks their way into the building every day. Like, that's the sort of weaponization of the justice system that I'm talking about, and it's working on you if you're saying that because they technically put a toe out of line somewhere that they deserve to be taken out of their homes by the FBI, when that isn't happening to the bad people who the community don't like, who aren't protecting the community, who are also breaking the law in often even more obvious ways. You have an apathy towards the fact that the justice system is being weaponized for political reasons, which you a moment ago yourself admitted they were. You said that it wasn't politically motivated. You were like, oh yeah, sure. You shouldn't be apathetic about that. That's a big fucking problem.
I'm just going to say this. I have seen, and I know this is, well, yeah, but I mean, I'm going to just say it. Trump announced he was going to run again, and Biden's DOJ charged him with felony counts, or the state did. As soon as he announced, he got charged with felony counts for a misdemeanor. What is normally a misdemeanor? Do you think that was politically motivated?
No, I don't think it was.
You
I
don't?
Think
Okay,
no,
so
I don't. Because
I don't
Biden.
agree with you
because there's this state level thing where this happens, and then there's Biden at the top. And I'm trying to explain why I think it's different, which is that Biden is really far away from the prosecutors who charged Donald Trump with those 34 felonies. There's a lot of people in between. Nobody there directly reports to him. Whereas if we look at what's happening now, Donald Trump specifically sent Kash Patel, somebody that he appointed to use the FBI, because he's leader of the FBI, to investigate these people, and we arrested 15 of them yesterday. So you're saying that because a court during Biden's term, like you're talking about this time correlation where they filed charges against Trump while Biden was president versus Trump specifically saying
he announced that he was running, and then like a day or two later they announced these charges.
If that's the case, then you just proved yourself wrong, because those sorts of charges take so much longer than a couple of days to establish and get set up. The indictment that was released yesterday on the 16th was pushed through the courts last week on the 11th. Like, the system is slower than that. So it is if what you just said is true, because I don't know the exact dates, if it was that soon, then it must be a coincidence, because there's no way they just whipped up some charges over the course of 24 hours. That's ridiculous.
But your claim right now, you're claiming that they're just whipping up charges on your friends right now.
They didn't. It took them a year and a half. Well, it took them months from the beginning of January where a bunch of the stuff they're saying happened, but it was a year after this executive order, and then Trump and Vance have both said publicly that they're sending they're sending Kash Patel's FBI to come investigate us, and I can say us because this is a thing that I'm involved in personally, or I was before the show got super popular.
What are they actually investigating you guys for?
Impeding law enforcement is like the broad strokes here, but it's a bunch of very serious charges involving interstate interstate stalking, assault on police officers, that sort of thing, conspiracy charges, conspiracy against the U.S. government. But like, you know, the talking point that sells it is that they're accusing us of impeding law enforcement in a way that's illegal.
Well, impeding law enforcement is illegal.
No, that's not necessarily true.
There are definitely reasons why impeding law enforcement is illegal.
If a police officer comes up to me and says, which way did the bad guy run, I'm allowed to exercise my Fifth Amendment right and not answer the question, even if that impedes the officer's ability to know which direction he's supposed to run.
That's why I said there is definitely some reasons why impeding law enforcement. I didn't say all. I said
right.
some.
Yeah, right. So but there's, you know, they're gonna say that any attempt. I can admit that when people do the things that they did around ICE, they are trying to make ICE not succeed at what they're trying to do, which is impeding. But there's a specific legal definition of what impeding is that isn't met by somebody blowing a whistle, that isn't met by somebody alerting the neighbors that the ICE agents are coming.
What is the definition of impeding?
Physically stopping them from a physical action that they are taking in the course of their duty. So, for example, if a police officer is chasing the bad guy that I was just using in the other hypothetical, and I stand in his way, I'm in a doorway, and I stand in his way, and I say, you're not allowed through here, and he says, yes, I got to chase this bad guy. I have probable cause to get through here. I need to do this. That's impeding.
It's strictly physical.
Yeah.
Strictly physical is the legal definition of impeding.
Yeah, it's like 18
According to who?
US. Oh, is Law of the Wild in the chat? I forget the number. I haven't. This talking point hasn't come up in a little bit. But there's a specific law, like a statute, that you can get charged for impeding law enforcement, and it specifically lays out that you do have to do something that you don't have the constitutional right to do, that physically stops the law enforcement officer from doing what they're trying to do. And that physical interaction is important because you're allowed to follow ICE agents. You are allowed to observe them in public.
Yeah.
That is
public
constitutional.
Servants. Absolutely, they're public servants.
And you're allowed to be noisy.
Yes.
Yeah. So when most of the ICE observations that happened involve those things, being noisy. In my case, I would do the pursuing, I would do the tracking of them, I would spot them, I'd get on dispatch and talk to them about like who, you know, is this an unknown ICE vehicle or whatever it is. And then I would follow them to where they were going, or maybe somebody else noticed them, and I got the call through the chat that I should go to this place, and I would go there, and there'd be ICE agents, and we'd get noisy, we'd get out there, and you'd yell at them and stuff, and I'd dunk on them in the way that I dunk on some people on this show. I don't like dunking on you, Aya Golfer, because you're super good faith, and I appreciate my conversations with you. But you know, I like get burns in or whatever, make silly videos, like that's what I was doing, and that's constitutionally protected behavior. I didn't do anything illegal in the course of participating in these signal chats, but I've been labeled a terrorist for doing it. Which means that when I do get arrested for having been involved in those signal chats, the right will say Oskar was a terrorist. Of course he got arrested.
I don't see any reason. If you are not physically impeding officers from doing their jobs, I don't see any reason why you would be arrested for blowing a whistle.
Well, every step of the way, we can say that these people shouldn't be arrested. And every time they arrest another group of protesters or activists or ICE observers, I have to call my mom and levy to her my honest case for how close to home I think it was. And yesterday I had to call my mom and tell her that it's a lot closer to me than it's been in the past, and I'm very worried about getting arrested for what I did. As a parent, I hope you can trust that I'm being serious when I tell that to you. I have to call my mom and update her and say, yeah, you know what? Some people on this indictment list are people I've crossed paths with. I can't talk very specifically about it in public. But it's public knowledge because of the content I've made for the last 6 months. So I had to call my mom and say, yep, they arrested a whole bunch of us again, real close to home. One of them was another local folk singer. What did he do? According to the indictment, he rode in a U-Haul that delivered some shields to people at the Whipple building.
What did the people at the Whipple building need shields for?
Crowd munitions.
What?
pepper balls?
Were they trying to like keep people from getting in and out of the Whipple building?
No, just standing in the free speech zone that's designated because they put up walls. Like, I mean, like the many people who carry the plastic shields have done things that are illegal. Like they have overstayed in order to disperse or whatever.
Vacate, yeah.
Right, but and we've seen this at Delaney Hall in New Jersey, where they made it illegal to be in the premises with a backpack or a mask, which is ridiculous because if you're a reporter genuinely just going to report for the local news, you're probably going to have a backpack and a mask to protect yourself from the crowd munitions. They're making self-defense illegal because the bad guys are using self-defense, but they're also making it illegal for the good guys. That's a constitutional overreach. That's what we're so upset about. Are we allowed to arrest a person for walking down the street with a plastic shield before they do anything illegal?
No.
But they do that. There's video of mass arrests of people arriving at the Whipple building with their plastic shields and just immediately being arrested for carrying self-defense equipment. Plastic shields.
So they're just, I mean, now, can you understand that maybe there was some reason? Okay. Is everything that are law enforcement going to make the right decision every time? Absolutely not. Are law enforcement going to fuck up and make mistakes? Yes, it happens. Now,
but this isn't an accident. This is specifically what Trump is ordering these people to do. The reason I'm giving you the aggressive pushback is because I don't accept that this was a mistake. This was an accident. They misconstrued something. This is very directly the plan.
Is that if you have 10 people in a group that are doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, and those 10 people say are holding shields, and then another person's walking by that area, maybe not even necessarily with those people, but by that area saying, we just had 10 people that were doing this with these shields, probably a pretty good chance he might be involved. Let's go investigate this. Let's detain him, investigate, and figure out what's going on.
Let's make your analogy accurate, because I go to the Whipple and I've been involved in these things, and the way that it goes, to make your analogy accurate, it's that if you have 10 people with shields and one of them does something illegal, are you allowed to arrest the other 9? That's the question.
No.
Okay, then why do they arrest the other 9?
Are they holding them? Are they, like, when they arrest them, are they holding them for, what is that? I believe they have 24 hours to do investigations.
A lot of it's catch and release. A lot of time they don't charge you at all. They still take your phone. They still take the money out of your pockets often. They still take your plastic shield. And then they release you without charges. And one of the reasons they often don't charge us when they snatch us is because it makes it harder for us to have recourse. So if it's arrest and it's a false arrest, then there's legal recourse. Whereas if they just catch and release you, you're happy to get to go home with your family, even if you are down a shield and whatever was in your pockets. But no, I'm reporting to you. And I know you trust me, Iowa Golfer. Like, I know you know that I operate in good faith, so I can just, like, cut through all of the, like, videos I'd have to pull up of this stuff happening and just tell you that this is what happens when me and my friends go to protest at the Whipple. Collective punishment. One person broke a rule, therefore we're going to aggress this group of people. We're going to spray pepper spray at this group of people. We're going to shoot pepper balls at this group of people. We're going to tear gas this group of people. That's why people bring personal protective equipment, and they're arresting people for showing up with personal protective equipment. It's an organized effort to suppress people from protesting or reporting on protesting because of the bad.
Because now I'm not even actually completely sure. Is the Whipple building just the federal building?
Yeah, it's the federal building here in Minneapolis. ICE is operating out of it currently.
Okay, so is that where they're taking like ICE detainees and stuff like that? Then
that's the first stop for them. Yeah.
Okay.
The Whipple building is like across the street from the airport, so they detain them, they process them at the Whipple building, and then they get flown to wherever they're going to go.
So when you're protesting at the Whipple building, what exactly is it you're protesting? Just ICE?
A whole bunch of shit. It's a lot of time when there's a bigger demonstration at the Whipple building, it's about a particular thing. We'll like choose a particular thing to come and be upset about. But for the most part, the practices of ICE are unconstitutional. The practices of the law enforcement agencies that are cooperating with them are unconstitutional and often in violation of local orders. So there's a whole rat's nest of illegal stuff that's going on here, in addition to the fact that we don't like the policies that are being enforced in the first place. Because I'm perfectly happy to admit that if they were enforcing the policies that I don't like in a way that wasn't unconstitutional, that'd be less of a problem. I would still protest it because I don't like the laws.
I just got a comment real quick. Nelly just commented that we're going in circles. She's clearly never seen us have a conversation before.
Well, I appreciate you for engaging with it, but it is that sort of pushback thing where we just you're so willing to be an apologist for the law enforcement, and you're saying that the DOJ was.
I'm not being an apologist. What I'm saying is
yes,
that
you
I'm
are.
not being an apologist.
Yes, you
There's
are.
two sides to every story, Oscar. You understand that? Every story has two sides.
Right.
There's a lot of times where both people think that they are in the right. There's a lot of times where both people think that what they are doing is justified and what they are doing is right. And that's okay. That is okay. Not all the time, but that is okay. Generally, that is okay. All right. Everybody's going to have their own view on what things should be and how things should be done. That's the way it's always been in the United States. That's why we have
I'll
our
take
checks
a moment.
and balances system. That's why we have our two-party system that we have.
No, so I'm going to point out. I'm going to point out why I think that you're being an apologist, and it times well with this YouTube super chat that I have to read. So I'm going to read a couple donations quickly because Joseph sent me $20 on Cash App to say you're doing good in this weird world. Thank you, appreciate you, Joseph. W's in the chat for Joseph. He donates quite a lot. He's kind of he's one of the big time donors who should get his name on the credit screen. But USB CD 360 on YouTube Super Chat sent me $10 to say there's this repeated notion by guests that high up people can communicate telepathically and that they are directly involved in on the ground affairs, which isn't the case with something like Trump getting charged with 34 felonies, because there isn't this interconnected web of these people giving the orders directly to each other. But you're giving benefit of the doubt for all of this law enforcement stuff I'm talking about protesting being some kind of accident or some kind of bad apple, like, oh, untrained officer must have done something bad. But no, the president goes on the TV and supports it. J.D. Vance goes on TV and says that Kash Patel is going to use Oskar Quentin's footage to get the people who assaulted Savannah Hernandez charged, because that's a fucking thing that happened. I'm 1 degree of separation away from the president because I'm involved in this, and that's not how it should be. The president shouldn't be going after protesters. The president shouldn't be going after people who are out here trying to speak their mind. The vice president, J.D. Vance, shouldn't be weighing in on a parking lot scrap that happened on April 11th at the Whipple building, because I'm sure that thousands of parking lot scraps happen the country over outside of bars and in Walmart parking lots, and those don't get attention from the FBI. They get attention from the FBI because Savannah Hernandez works for Turning Point USA and made a big stink about it, and me and my buddies were trolling her on Instagram and making her fucking look bad about it. So they sent fucking Kash Patel after me and my fucking buddies, and this is a different group of buddies, by the way, than the group that was arrested yesterday. So I have to worry about that. I have to worry about whether or not I'm going to be arrested for being involved with that. Chris Ostrusko, the person who assaulted her, I shook his hand yesterday. I ran into him on the street, and while I think it's fucking terrible what he did, I defend him in his fight against the federal government being weaponized against him for a fucking parking lot scrap, because he's getting a 5th degree assault charge for the assault of Savannah Hernandez, which is the reasonable charge for shoving a lady in a parking lot, which is what happened. Real bad that he did that. That's the appropriate charge. There shouldn't be federal charges for that. The state level government disagrees with the federal government about where the property lines for the Whipple building are, and the federal government's trying to nudge the property lines farther into the tennis court parking lot that we were in. We weren't in the parking lot of the Whipple building. We were across the street in the parking lot of the tennis court where we're allowed to be, and they're trying to say that that's federal property so that they can elevate these charges. Trump actually did falsify those business documents in an effort to commit further crimes, which is why they got elevated to felonies. They are lying about where the property line is to try to make what he did a felony, a federal crime, when it obviously wasn't. He's literally standing on private property that belongs to a privately run tennis court. Like I can give you all the details of how what you're saying about this is wrong, and there isn't room for the benefit of the doubt. But we keep talking in circles because I can go on a tirade like the one I'm wrapping up right now, and it just doesn't seem meaningful to you.
No, I understand that you are. Look, I'm not saying. I absolutely understand that you are very, very, what's the word, passionate about this issue. Minneapolis is your backyard. I was just up in Minneapolis last week. It's a beautiful city. It's a nice place to be. They got great food, by the way. Great restaurants.
Dude, you should have told me you were in town. I would have bought you a beer for all the Instagram followers you've given me. My goodness.
I will take you up on that sometime.
I know you appreciate that you've been beneficial for the show, and it's kind of this weird little friendship I have with you. That's just an aside. Continue what you were saying.
We'll take you up on that sometime. Oh, the thing, some people protesting. That's great. I love it. Am I saying that these issues aren't happening? No. Am I saying that ICE agents are in the right with what they're doing all the time in Minnesota? No. Am I saying that federal police officers or the Trump administration or whoever, JD Vance or the FBI is in the right with everything that they're doing in Minnesota? No. What I'm saying is that there is always, not always, shouldn't say that. I'm not going to say that. There's a lot of gray. It's not black and white always. There's a lot of gray.
I don't think it is gray.
One of the big issues
I don't think it is gray
right now,
in the examples I just gave about how the president
and I finish what I'm going to say here? Because I think you're going to agree with me.
Okay.
One of the biggest issues that we have had in these past couple of years, ICE agents are a bunch of fucking pussies that were pulled off of the street because they had to pull and fill their ranks. So they got a whole bunch of kids that were bullied in high school, and they put them through 10 weeks of training when it's supposed to be like 20 or whatever. And Kristi Noem really dropped the fucking ball on that. I'm glad she's gone. I'm hoping that Mark Wayne Mullen fixes this. I'm hoping that Mark Wayne Mullen fixes this. I'm not saying that he is.
The let's look at some, but you keep like trying to find this gray area, and this is what being an apologist is. You don't have to say I'm apologizing on their behalf to be an apologist. What you're doing is apologist behavior by just inventing room for this gray area when we can look at something very, very specific about undue law enforcement. Because I actually, as somebody involved with the Savannah Hernandez case, and also separately involved in this signal chat thing, I haven't been indicted yet, but like I kind of have a foot in both camps in terms of my involvement. But I'm talking about these specific overreaches of power. Okay, Why is it?
You keep bringing up this Savannah Hernandez. Who is that?
Savannah Hernandez is a Turning Point USA correspondent who on April 11th went to a demonstration at the Whipple building, one of these larger protests where like a bunch of people showed up, and she got into it debating in the crowd, and a bunch of people were yelling at her. And I am perfectly happy to say to the public that it is fair to say that she was assaulted by the crowd. You may have seen a video of Chris Ostrusko, Minnesota Angry Man, shoving her ass to the ground after she got into a scuffle with his wife and daughter, Paige and Diana Ostrusko. So, like, basically, this is a parking lot fight. Like, she went to a funeral, mocked the dead, and some people got in her face. And it wasn't like somebody came up to her and punched her. It was her and this guy's daughter, like, standing next to each other, too close, like, nudging elbows, like, oh, don't touch me, like that sort of thing, until it just kind of escalated into fighting. And I think that the daughter was in the wrong for not de-escalating that. I think that she was really poking the bear. They were kind of poking each other. But I do think it's fair to say that what happened to Savannah Hernandez was not legal. Like, I'm not defending it. But it's not okay that because she works at Turning Point USA, she gets to call up fucking JD Vance and get him to send Kash Patel and his FBI after me and my friends, which I mean literally because I'm involved in this, and I'm waiting for the knock on the door. I'm waiting for this for the subpoena for my evidence. I'm waiting. I mean, I already got the reach out from her. Her lawyer reached out and said that I'm not allowed to delete any information at all. Like, I'm not allowed to delete pictures according to their lawyer. They don't want me to delete my ugly dick pics that didn't have good lighting because it's covering up evidence. They want all my Grok queries, even though I don't.
Give that up. The dick don't picture good. The dick don't take. The dick does not photograph well.
Maybe yours doesn't, but
No, it don't.
Anyway, I'm just being silly. I'm just being silly about the demands.
No woman looks at a dick pic and says, "I love this picture."
I'm just saying.
No woman ever does that.
I'm just saying that they sent me a big, intimidating letter saying I'm not allowed to like delete any information or whatever. But the point is that when I get assaulted at the Whipple building, when Cam, what the fuck is his name? That Jake Lang. When Jake Lang comes and Jaden Scott and these monsters, and they come and they pepper spray people for no reason. They shoot paintball guns out of a moving vehicle at the crowd. They do things like that. Why can't I call up JD Vance and get Kash Patel to co-investigate those guys?
Have you tried?
I don't have his number.
And I'm not even trying to be like in bad faith here. I mean, am I saying that does she have connections? Yeah, probably, I guess. If she called JD Vance, I suppose she has connections.
No.
I mean, one thing I will say is what is going on in Minnesota is not a quiet thing. It's pretty federally known what is going on in Minnesota. That could be a big reason of why that this is being brought to light. I don't know.
But why does Savannah Hernandez get to sick the FBI on me and my friends when I don't get to do that when I am assaulted for exercising my First Amendment right? To answer the chat, I did almost say Cam Higbee, but I was thinking of the wrong person. I've never actually been assaulted by Cam Higbee, but I have been assaulted by Jake Lane.
Well, it's probably because she knows people.
Right. That's bad. That's not okay. It's not okay that she has such unfettered access to the justice system. She's a fucking civilian. She's a nobody. She's an influencer. I'm going to eclipse her ass soon, and it's going to embarrass her. She's not growing because her ideologies are going to die off, and mine are going to be what the future's about. So I'm confident that I'm going to eclipse her. That doesn't mean I'm going to get a direct line to the FBI.
What are her ideologies anyway?
She's a pick-me girl, dude.
What are her ideologies?
She's a Kirklet. She supports Turning Point USA. She worked for Charlie Kirk. Now she works for Erica Kirk. So you know, she's pro-immigration. She's pro-Trump policies. She's pro the weaponization of the Justice Department in these sorts of ways. Like all these major Trump talking points, she's one of the talking heads that pushes them. She gets to go on Fox News and talk about it. She gets to have reach in the Republican Party about all these policies that I sit here and talk all day about. And that's fine, you know, like she's allowed to be a popular asshole. Like that's not the issue here. The issue here is that just because you're a popular asshole who's on Fox News a lot, you shouldn't have extra access. It'd be as corrupt as if my brother was a police officer and then I sent him to arrest you. Like, it's that type of corruption. They're in cahoots, socially and politically, with the people who have the authority to decide what gets investigated. So they are abusing that authority that they have for personal gain. That's what corruption is.
So the problem with that is, say my dad's a police officer, and I'm in a parking lot and somebody assaults me, and I call my dad and tell him I'm assaulted, and he comes arrests them. That's not illegal. That's not corrupt.
That's not a good example. Because
that's the same thing. It's honestly the same thing. It's
no,
just different
no, because they did get charged by the state. They didn't need the feds to come. Like a federal charge doesn't make sense for this type of crime. Why would you get federal charges for having a fight in a parking lot? The state level charges I agree with personally. The fifth degree assault charge.
What was she charged with federally?
So the three of them, I'll just lay it out for everybody. The three of them initially got charged with some pretty low-level assaults, and as you would expect, if it was like a bar parking lot fight, just like a random scuffle, the scrape between Diana and Paige, the two women who are the wife and daughter of Chris Ostrusco, and then Savannah Hernandez himself, that was a fucking parking lot scrap. They didn't consider it fucking chargeable. Like, I have said numerous times in the public, I think that Paige in particular was in the wrong. Diana, I think, was just an upset mother. I really don't blame her all that much. And then Savannah also, I think, was at a funeral mocking the dead, which doesn't earn you an assault. That's not legal, but ethically, fuck her for that. Come in here and, all the stuff I've talked about in this episode, like fucking mocking us about it. Like, fuck, she's an instigator, like bad person, legally allowed to do that. So I can say all that and say that it makes sense that the state threw out the charges for the women involved because they just didn't do anything that aggressive. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you. I apologize, but I want to address something that was said in the comments.
Okay.
By Rogue Ghost. I don't know if you saw it. It says, if you personally call your dad, yeah, it's corrupt. I can't call your dad. What is the difference between me, like I said, me being assaulted in a parking lot and my dad's a police officer, he's on duty, I call him. What's the difference between me calling him and me calling 911 and they call him? What's the difference?
The difference is that Savannah Hernandez abused the fact that she has a personal relationship with the people in charge of the country right now.
Once again, I'm not that doesn't answer the question, Oscar.
You really derailed. I was explaining the charges. Let me just get through that, and we can get back to that comment if you want after.
Yeah.
So they all got charged, and then if this was a bar parking lot scrap, it would make sense that like a prosecutor would look at it and be like, yeah, okay, like some like super low level assault here. There's a cat fight in the fucking parking lot. But when Chris shoved Savannah, the big money shot that you've all seen my footage of, because I'm the person who filmed that crazy shot of him punting her to the ground. I was standing right there. I'm the one putting my hand on his chest, getting him to stop. He got a 5th degree assault charge for that. That's the sort of assault charge where you might do 30 days in jail. You might be on probation for a long time. You're probably never going to be allowed to own a gun. I think that's how the law works. That should be how the law works here. And it's a mark on your record. And you might have to take some court like mandated anger management classes because he obviously lost his temper. Seems reasonable. I completely agree. The state level charges I think are completely reasonable. It's not reasonable at all that Savannah Hernandez got to tell on us to the federal government, and JD Vance himself said on television that he's going to use, the footage of the people involved, so like me and my buddies, to get us all investigated. They're talking about investigating the networks that fund us, which corresponds to like a conspiracy theory that I'm part of like a paid protester network and that I'm being paid by somebody to be there. I'm being paid by you guys to run this show, which means I get to spend more time protesting, and you guys support the fact that I go do that. So I am being like paid in that sense. But they're talking about this being like part of an organized Antifa terror group. The same type of excuses that were used to arrest these 15 people yesterday for their ICE observation activities are the sorts of excuses that the FBI is going to use when they arrest me. I'm worried about my freedom. I'm going to get locked up about this.
Yeah. What are the federal charges about? What are the feds charging this guy with?
Assaulting a person and violating their constitutionally protected behavior. So basically, they're going after them for assaulting her on federal property, which is questionable because, again, parking lot, private property of the tennis court.
Well, that'll be decided in law, in court.
We'll see if that works out. Yeah. Ravens Blossoms here. I am going to wrap the show soon because today was a weird dud of a show with callers, but I just wanted to wrap this up with Iowa Golfer. But like those so Raven, hang on a second. So those are the charges, but the federal charges don't make any sense. There's no reason to say that there should be federal charges here that makes any sense. The only thing they have going is that it could have been on federal property, which it wasn't. The state officials agreed with me that it wasn't. It's across the street on private property owned by the tennis court.
Yeah. So do you agree? So say I have, let's use this as an example, right?
Can I interject before we move on real quick?
Hi, Raven.
Let me use this as an example, okay?
Really quick.
In a world that, doesn't exist, right? I have a weapon. I pew somebody, okay? Pew someone. They don't unalive, okay? The state charges me. Is it illegal for the feds to come in and charge me also?
It depends on the type of. I mean, probably
this
no.
Is a false equivalency, though.
Yeah, if it was
is there anything stopping?
Well, Savannah Hernandez did.
The federal Justice Department. Is there anything from stopping the Justice Department?
Sorry,
what
Raven.
is illegal about the Justice Department coming in and throwing federal charges on top of a charge that is already done at the state level?
Because
it's done on a personal favor.
What is illegal? Is that illegal?
So the issue is that it's not. They're not. The charges don't make sense for what they did. You don't. There is no. It's not a federal
the same
crime.
Charges. They're assault charges.
A mild assault case. Sorry, hang on. Let me just answer Iowa Golf's. Let me just answer Iowa Golf's question directly. It's not a federal offense to shove somebody in a parking lot. That's the difference. It just isn't a federal crime. It's a crime. We agreed about what the state level charge. It's a really mild. It's as mild as an assault charge gets. It's like the lowest form of.
Is your claim that you cannot be federally charged for assault? Is that your claim?
There are types of assaults that can get you federal charges. This assault was not such an assault.
You could get a federal charge for any crime.
Can I
yeah.
say what I was trying to say? So back in your example where you got in a fight and then you called your dad, who is the sheriff, the difference is your example excludes the part where the charges get elevated just because you have the personal connection. That's like saying they were both going to get charged with assault, but you called your dad and said, "Can we get this elevated to attempted murder?"
That's a good analogy.
Are they trying to? Yeah. They're both. Oscar just said that they're both assault charges.
See, you brought. Wait. I need to address something. I need to address something, Iowa Golfer, which is earlier in the call you said you didn't do hypotheticals, but you just offered us a hypothetical and trying to understand this. So what you need to do to face the hypothetical here is we're not saying that they're elevating the Ostruskos charges to murder. We're saying that we're elevating them from mild state-level felony or assault charges to these serious federal felonies, right? That's the analogy here is the assault charge being elevated to something like murder, because that's what's happening. It's a mild assault charge that should be no more than that, and it's being elevated to something else. In Raven's example,
is it a federal felony or a federal misdemeanor that they're charging him with? Because just because it's a federal charge does not make it a felony.
Felonies. They're charging him with felonies.
Is the state charging him with a felony, or is it a misdemeanor?
I think a 5th-degree assault is a misdemeanor. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that.
Can you answer one question for me? Do you think that this would have gotten elevated the same way if a leftist called up JD Vance and said, "Can you investigate this?"
Probably not. I just agreed with Oscar
There
earlier
you
saying
go.
that
Right,
it's
so that's
because
the
she knows
problem.
this
So you
guy.
agree with the problem that I can't call up the government and say go arrest Jake Lang. Actually, side note, Jake Lang did get arrested recently for making some terroristic threats. Texas, I think. Anyway, but no, he shouldn't have been able to commit those crimes because he should have been arrested for the things he's done to us here, because this is a person who didn't just like lose his temper and do a bad thing once that would maybe get you a 5th degree assault charge. This is a person who threatens people on social media. He says, I'm going to show up and harm you, and then he shows up and harms us. There's premeditation. He doesn't lose his temper and shove somebody. He brings weapons and uses them on people in a way that's illegal. Like, this is so different. Why can't I get the FBI to investigate Jake Lang, Nick Sorter, Cam Higbee, Zach X, like all these well-known right-wing instigators who come fucking bother us at the Whipple building, come assault us for exercising our First Amendment right, make a real pattern out of the behavior that we saw the Ostruskos do on that one particular Saturday. Like that's, you agree that that's unfair, and that's what I'm upset about. That's what I'm concerned about. That's why I think it's more likely that I'm going to end up in jail or like incarcerated than somebody like Jake Lang. Jake Lang will probably get fucking pardoned if they incarcerate him for the terroristic threats that he's currently waiting to get out on bond for in Texas, because Donald Trump already pardoned him for assaulting police officers at the Capitol on January 6th. This guy's a fucking J6er.
So just quick question. Even if they did try to come give you federal charges, what do they even have you on? Do they even have you on anything?
Me, personally?
Yeah.
I've done some mildly illegal shit that I'm perfectly like comfortable saying in public. I've stood in the street when an officer ordered me not to. I have overstayed in order to disperse at the Whipple. There's footage of that. I don't need to pretend I haven't. But this, like, I didn't do any organizing for the Signal chats. So we can talk about whether or not anything that the organizers did was legal or not and like have that conversation. But I just wasn't simply involved in that even slightly. In the course of my involvement in the Signal chats, I never did anything illegal. I just did like footwork. I just observed, wrote down license plate numbers, went places. You guys can go watch the videos I made back in January and February of the things I did when I showed up, yelling at ICE agents, telling jokes, that sort of thing, blowing my whistle. So yeah, other than like the mild protesters sometimes get arrested for obstructing traffic because they refuse to leave the street when the officers order them to. I've done loads of that sort of stuff. The statute of limitations on that I think works in such a way that it's not even a problem for me to say it. But like, no, there's no reason to charge me federally with anything. But if they invent a reason, I won't be surprised. Which is why I have my affairs in order, because I live every day knowing that that door might get knocked on, and that might be it. That might be my freedom's up for Oscar.
May I ask Iowa golfer a random kind of, not like tangent, but kind of a pivot? How do you feel about the government labeling anybody that supports transgender people as terrorists?
I've never even heard this claim, so I'm going to have you elaborate.
Oscar, do you know which...
I don't know the order number, no.
No? Okay. I guess I can see what I
If
can
you want to
pull.
talk, I can try to pull it up.
But yeah, just until Oscar
Trying to
can
call
verify
transgender people terrorists?
people that support them specifically, which is how he plans on going for like nonprofits that benefit transgender people and shut them down or pull funding from them.
The order is titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. This was a day one order. January 20th, 2025.
Will you read that one?
I mean, it's long, but basically it's saying that...
I'm just curious on
I
where
don't even think that's
where
the
he's-
one that labels trans people as terrorists.
I'm just
It was a little bit more recent
wanted
than
to see
that.
where they're like labeling people as a terrorist group.
Okay.
It was the
charge
same.
people with
I think it was the
terrorism.
same one where they called Antifa terrorists.
Oh, okay. That's going to be easier to find. Trump order on Antifa. Yeah, this is the one designating Antifa a terrorist organization. Does this involve?
I believe it's at least he made some executive order that entitled both of them. Let me see what I can find.
L. Raven for not being prepared.
I trust you, Oscar. You're the one usually at the helm. That's
true. I'm usually quicker than this on finding an executive order, but I'm actually not I don't remember the one you're talking about, because there's the one saying that trans is nonsense, and then there's ones saying that if you're Antifa, you're a terrorist. I don't know of one that does both or connects the two. I mean, both orders are bad. Both orders are violations.
It's the one that used the wording, "We will find you and we will kill you."
Oh yeah, that one. Right. I don't think was that an executive order. I think that was a committee establishment. That wasn't an executive order.
Okay, so me for misspeaking, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're both like statements from the White House that aren't law, so they kind of work in the same way. It's the counterterrorism strategy. It's this document.
There we go.
Yeah, so this lays out like a counterterrorism strategy that talks about the threat. And if I go by not transnational gangs, that's not what I'm looking for. Oh, here we go. Including the assassination of Charlie Kirk by a radical who espoused extreme transgender ideologies. So they're like linking transgender ideologies to terrorism, which is insane, to this, to the killing of Charlie Kirk. And then I believe it's the last paragraph of this document. Let's see. Our new U.S. counterterrorism strategy is a return to common sense and peace through strength. As I said after our first successful counterterrorism mission, just days after I was sworn back in office, if you hurt Americans or are planning to hurt Americans, we will find you and we will kill you. And of course, people find it agreeable to say if you hurt Americans or are planning to hurt Americans, we will find you and we will kill you. But the problem with this line is that Trump is doing executive orders like the two that I just brought up, trying to find this one and this whole document itself, that is defining what planning to hurt Americans is in ways that are terrifying. They consider it hurting America to promote trans ideologies. They consider what I do on this show to be hurting America, which means that they're going to find me and kill me.
So the problem that I just take with this lady's quote earlier is that she says they passed an executive order.
I did say I misspoke on that.
Yeah, that's pretty dangerous. That we need to be careful with that.
And that's why I had this fact check in real
anything towards anything like.
Yep, that was a mistake. So, now it's been corrected.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
I don't. Yeah.
Directive.
But they're saying they're going to find us and going to kill us if we harm America in a way that they are defining. Trump's executive orders mean that I am included in that. According to the executive order that we just pulled up that defined Antifa as a terrorist organization, I am harming America by being anti-fascist. Therefore, they're going to find and kill me. They're talking about me. They're talking about Raven, because Raven is trans. We both espouse trans ideologies, because I believe in trans rights. So it's applicable to both of us, even if just not necessarily for the fact that Raven's trans, because I'm not trans. But these orders give them.
Speaking on this, because I do appreciate you. What rights do I have as a straight man that trans people don't?
Joining the military.
Joining the military is not a right. Everybody does not have the right to join the military.
Everyone has the right to sign up for it. They don't have the right to get let in. The reason why trans people aren't let in is due to discrimination and not due to any real reason.
I'm going to take a moment to just thank Jazz. Sorry for interrupting. I got to thank
I was unable to join the military.
Sorry for interrupting.
You qualify. They made being trans a qualifier or a disqualifier for being in the military. That's discrimination.
You can't have autism and join the military. Does that mean that they don't have rights?
If they can provide a legitimate medical reason as why an autistic person can't be in the military, then it's not discrimination. But they haven't provided a legitimate medical or scientific reason why trans people can't be in the military. It's just purely based on discrimination.
It's not whatever.
Go ahead, Oscar, you said you wanted to thank
well,
someone.
we'll get to we'll
ahead,
talk
Oscar,
here. I'll take the floor and then I'll get to what you just said, because Chris sent me $20 on Cash App to say I enjoy watching you cook, MAGA. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for watching. And Jazz sent $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say it's more like if you got in a bar fight and called your senator dad and he passed legislation to criminalize all bar fights with federal charges. Yeah, that is a different angle on the sort of analogy that we can use. But Trump is trying to change the laws to make what we're doing illegal, and these are demonstrations of it. So you said you got cornered a little bit there because Raven had a good example of ways that the privileges and rights, whether we want to talk about privileges or rights, The problem is when there's not equal protection under law. You asked for, I think what in the spirit of your question, you were looking for an example of the way that trans people are not given equal protection under law. And Raven really promptly delivered you such an example, one that has applied to her. And
I have others as well.
there are others. That was just one good example. And your answer when confronted with that was a really quiet whatever. And it just isn't whatever. It just isn't whatever to Raven, who is stuck living
what I'm
her
saying
life.
is that there are so many things that can disqualify you from being a member of the military. That doesn't mean that you don't have rights.
And why is
or you don't
discrimination an
have-
acceptable reason?
So what reasons did they give for transgender people to not qualify for the
They
military?
said
What did
they're
they put?
mentally unfit.
Poor duck.
And they also kicked trans
So
people
that's a
out of the
medical
military with the
reason.
label that they're a threat to national security, which denies them their benefits. Some trans
They're a
people
threat
served
to
18
national
years
security.
and then got kicked out after being called a threat to national security after giving 18 years of their life to this country. Explain to me how that's okay.
Yeah, that's not okay. But so can I defend that? No. But can I defend saying that, trans people can't be in the military just like somebody with autism or somebody with
Give me a
Down
medical
syndrome
or
can't be in
scientific
the
reason
military?
why.
I don't have to. They did
Yes,
it.
you do. If you're going to
No, I
make that
don't. I'm
claim,
not the government.
then show what
I'm
the
not the
government's
government.
claim was.
You just
Defend the
told me it was
government's claim.
for mental reasons.
Right, defend that.
I don't have. Why do I have to defend anything?
Because you're the one defending them doing it.
I didn't defend them kicking the transgenders out of the military.
It's transgender people. At least humanize us if you're going to speak about us.
Transgender people. I didn't defend them kicking transgender people
You're excusing
out
it.
of the military.
Excusing it is defending it.
Okay, so once again, I'm just going to claim this. Being in the military is not a right.
You have not
strictly said
explained a
trans
valid
rights.
reason to exclude them as a valid qualification.
Well, so we can get bogged down in the minutia about this, but I think that it goes back to this issue of apathy, which fundamentally, Iowa golfer, because I've said so much, I appreciate your presence on the show. I appreciate the way you navigate these conversations. I appreciate that for the most part, believe your good faith. Like every now and then, I feel like you're being a little wishy-washy, but like for the most part, I really feel like you're trying. And I know that I believe that in your heart, you're the type of person who wants to use the correct term. So when Raven corrects you, you use the correct one, and you want to get that right. And I can forgive you for mixing it up. But the thing that I really have a hard time forgiving you for is the apathy. We can give you example after example after example of this stuff, and you aren't getting to this point where you realize that the house is on fire. We could bring up the fact that Donald Trump tried to take away gun ownership from trans people. You're not going to tell me that gun ownership is a privilege, not a right, are you?
We could talk about how they revoked
not a
trans
right.
people's
It's-
IDs
gun
overnight
ownership
with
is
no
not a right.
notification.
You don't think that the gun ownership is a right? Hold on, sidetrack.
No.
What? You don't believe? Okay, I'm not. I'll be straightforward. I'm not super excited about the Second Amendment. I think it's about as outdated as the First Amendment because social media and AK-47s didn't exist in the 1700s when we wrote the Bill of Rights. I think both need like some serious codified reform to like catch them up to the 21st century. But just generally, people generally do believe that gun ownership is one of the 10 rights on the Bill of Rights.
It's not a right. It's a privilege. If you're a felon, you cannot own a gun.
This is semantic, and I kind of agree with you about what your point is, but I mean, I think that if you're going to say
a very important semantic.
we have
Literally
we
everything's a
have
privilege if it
yeah,
can be taken away.
if that's the definition, we have the death penalty in this country, which means that every one of your rights is a privilege because the government can take it away.
To a certain extent, I suppose.
No, you
yeah.
just said that if the government can take it away, it's not a right, it's a privilege. This country has the death penalty at the federal level for treason. If I commit treason and they execute me, they will take away all of my rights. I don't have any rights left over after I'm executed. So that means that there aren't rights. You're using like a you're using a sovereign citizen argument. You're using.
Same can be said about joining the military. That's literally.
I'm
what
not
I said.
accusing you of being a sovereign citizen. I'm saying that you're using an argument that the sovereign citizens often use, which is that asserting that if something can be taken away, it's not a right. It must therefore be a privilege. And that's what I'm taking issue with, because that covers everything, because they are allowed to execute us. You'd have an argument if we didn't have the death penalty, but because we have the death penalty, it means that every single thing can be taken away from you. Everything. Your life can be taken away from you. You don't have the right to protect yourself from undue search and seizure. You certainly don't have the freedom of speech when you're dead. We can take away all of our privileges by killing somebody for doing a crime that's considered capital by certain states in the country, or at the federal level for something like treason or terrorism. So if we do that, do you recognize that according to your own definition, rights don't exist?
Yes. I mean,
okay.
Yes, I understand.
That's the argument that the sovereign citizens use when they try to talk about rights, because it gives you this like wishy-washy, like nothing matters approach to rights. So fine, we don't have to call them rights for the sake of the conversation. But the Constitution says you're allowed to own guns, and the president can't take away a constitutional privilege, if we want to call it that, just because somebody's trans, in just the same way that the president can't take away a person's freedom of speech. Let me ask you this.
Or their ability to join the military based on an identity.
Do you recognize that it would be wrong for exactly the same reason if he had tried to take away the freedom of speech of trans people? Because that's the First Amendment instead of the second one. He's teacupped. He is always working. I heard the turn signal, but I think he's getting in and out of his truck to grab something. I know he does a lot of moving around on his property when he's on the show.
All right,
but
I'm back.
Anyway, yeah. Do you recognize that it would be exactly the same? It's a perfect analog to say that it would be bad for Trump to take away firearms from trans people for exactly the same reason that it would be inappropriate for him to say that they're not allowed to have the freedom of speech.
Yes.
Right. So this is really
so
bad.
Why aren't you upset about it?
You don't sound upset. That's the problem.
Well, you backed me into a corner here.
Because you're not really that upset? You don't really care?
So now you just want to shove words in my mouth.
I'm
I mean, that's
asking
fine.
a question that had a question mark on it.
Is the biggest issue in my world the fact that trans
So just say you don't care.
cannot serve in the military?
Don't beat around the bush.
No, it is not.
Let him finish his sentences,
don't
Raven.
I don't think about the fact that trans people cannot serve in the military. If you want to take it as far as to say I don't care about it, it's your prerogative.
You had a baby last week, dude. Your kid could be trans.
Yes, I did.
Like
He's got outdoor plumbing, Oscar. There's no confusing it.
I'm not saying he doesn't have outdoor plumbing. I'm saying that he
And
might.
so do I.
Yeah, Raven also has outdoor plumbing. So do I. Not relevant to gender. We could argue about trans rights, but these are things that could very directly affect you if your child becomes the victim of these sorts of policies. How will you take it if your kid comes out to you someday, says they're struggling with that?
If my kid can't join the military?
It doesn't have to be specifically the military or firearms or whatever. What my broad point is,
we have a plethora of issues in which ways
if
trans people are
right,
being oppressed.
if your child came out to
If
you
my
as
kid was
trans,
I'd love him the same way. I'd
the
love him
president,
the same way
but
that
the
I
president
do now.
wouldn't, and that should concern you. I appreciate that. Like that's the sounds like you're going to be a good dad if that's where your head is. But but straightforwardly, it sounds like you'd be a better dad if you were concerned about what other people are going to think about your kid, because other people aren't going to love your kid no matter who they are. They might come out trans. They might come out gay. We don't know those things about a 2-week-old baby, but you don't know the sort of life that your child's going to live. And if you're not concerned about making sure that all types of people are protected, then you're gambling that your kid is going to end up the type of person who's protected by the current system in the way that you happen to be. And that's both selfish and irresponsible.
I disagree with the format of your argument, but that's okay. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't understand the semantics of it, and that just might be because I'm stupid. I'm pretty stupid as it is, but I don't see how that correlates with what we were even talking about. But that's fine. I don't even understand how we got on the topic
The
of
whole
trans
point
people.
of
To
the
be honest with you.
topic, the whole point of this conversation is that you are okay with the government having different levels of engagement with citizens based on how they feel about you.
The point of the matter
There's no
is
equality
that
in this system, and you're just laissez-faire about it.
there's no equality. The fact that you're trying to say there's no equality, which is absolutely untrue.
He literally discriminated against trans people for no medical or scientific reason, Explain to me how that's equal.
Yeah, this is the circles that we get into talking Iowa golfer, where like we spent a good. We
truly,
laid out. No, hold on. We laid out like a few examples, and that you yourself just a few moments ago agreed were unfair. Again, you don't like believe in the rights label.
Oscar?
Life's not fair, but the government exists to make it more fair. Do you not understand
We
that?
should hold it accountable when it's not.
Hold on.
So
Do you
whose
wait?
job is it to hold the government accountable?
I want my question answered. Life isn't fair. You can get struck by lightning. You can get cancer. You can be born trans in a body that doesn't match your neurophysiology in a way that is uncomfortable for you. There's lots of unfair things that can happen. You do recognize that the entire purpose of the government is to make life more fair.
The entire purpose of the government is to do the will is to work for the people for the will of the people.
And how is that working for trans people?
I don't know. I'm not a trans person. I can't speak on trans issues.
And you can't just say this is not fair for trans people, and the government
I'm not a trans person. I don't live
people?
the same life as a trans person.
Can you not see the information provided to you and make?
It's the same way as I can't
reasoning?
experience racism. I don't know what that is. I'm a white man.
Right,
I
but
don't
if I see a
understand
black
racism
person
the
get
same as a
lynched,
black
I would say yes, that's racism.
I'd like to point out to the audience, and I think I'm comfortable doing this because I know Raven pretty well. Raven, when you were 27 years old, which is how old Iowa golfer was, you were a cis straight man serving in the Air Force, correct?
I got out at 25, but I was a cis straight man at 27.
You were a recent veteran who is a cis straight man who had served 6 years in the Air Force. Is that correct?
Correct.
So Iowa golfer. Raven happens to be. Most people figured out a little earlier than Raven. I think. Maybe I'm wrong about the numbers on that, but there are people who are older than you that figure out that they're trans. Because Raven had some.
That's fine.
So you could end up trans and not. Like you could be trans and not have had your awakening with it yet. Is what I'm saying.
Maybe.
And if that happens, I would support you. Sounds like you would be okay with that happening to you because you'd support your kid. Like you recognize that's not your fault and that's okay. But you should be concerned about living in a country where that sort of thing isn't protected. You don't want to live in a world where people are going to take your rights away or take your privileges away or assault you walking down the street. That's a problem that trans people have to worry about. Yeah.
Also, do you know the definition of stochastic terrorism?
Of what?
Stochastic terrorism.
No, I don't. Like I said, I'm kind of stupid. I don't. I have an Iowa public school education.
It's a communication tactic that essentially inflicts secondary harm to groups of people by spreading misinformation that enrages people that listen to this information, causing them to go then inflict violence upon this group of people. The government actively engages in stochastic terrorism versus transgender and queer people.
My one thing I would highly suggest then, if you believe they're engaging in terrorism, I would bring up charges. I would try and sue the government and try to find somebody that would help you sue the government.
This is the point of people smarter than you come up with this. They understand that you can't prosecute somebody for stochastic terrorism because it's very incredibly hard to prove that your words are what caused this.
All right, I gotta go, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Emotions.
Iowa golfer's always. Well, like I said, I appreciate him. I like that his conversations are functional. Like he's not so hard. Sometimes I really feel like I'm trying to stab a ball bearing with a butter knife when I'm trying to get somebody to answer a question. And it only usually takes a couple layers of being like, come on, man, let's get to this point when I'm talking to Iowa golfer. But the chat is calling him for it. It does feel a little bit like he got cornered and ran. I don't know if he's busy. He's always working when he calls in. So maybe I don't know.
He's been bad faith all day, though, if you ask me.
The bad faith started, I think, on the trans issue. I think his position, he wasn't willing to face up with the fact that his definition of rights make it so that nothing is rights. He never really gave me a satisfactory answer on the idea that because we have death penalty, the idea that if it can be taken away makes it not a right means nothing's a right because we can take everything away with the death penalty. So,
absolutely,
just doesn't fucking work. I'm actually gonna. Am I gonna wrap it? I think I'm gonna wrap it. We ran long because we got one caller today, and it was Iowa golfer. So the timestamp in the YouTube comment is gonna be like start the show at like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. But that's okay. Thanks for hopping up, Raven.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye, Chad. Love you all.
Gone for the algorithm. Debbie's in the chat for Raven. I'll take a moment at the end if you hung out all the way through this reasonably boring stream where I didn't really get very many callers. It's been very long time since I've had a dud show where I just didn't get many debates, but I mean, maybe we can celebrate that they're getting harder to find. If you stuck out all the way to the end, you probably appreciate what I'm doing here. So you might be the type of person who would go to the link tree in my bio and follow me in the other platforms to get those numbers up, especially my alternative accounts, Oskar Quentin 2 and Oskar Quentin Music on TikTok, which going forward, I'm going to try to put them in the request box so that they're sitting there. I'm going to have a secondary phone just to give you a button to click to get there, but for now you have to go to the link tree or just search it up. Same spelling as all the other things, just Oskar Quentin 2 and Oskar Quentin Music. And if you want to support the show directly, you can be like Araxis, who sent me $3 on Cash App to say, MAGA are mentally unwell and should not hold office. And I think that that's largely true of a lot of Trump supporters, is that they are just something cognitively going on that makes it impossible for them to be reasonable. Cult-like thinking. I don't think cult members should be in politics. Tavi also sent me $5 on YouTube Super Chat to say, caller, instead of trans rights, we could just look at this as some Americans have rights and some don't. That means we're all able to lose rights. Yeah, that's the extension of this that they're not able to see, is that, like, it doesn't actually matter whether your kid turns out trans or you turn out trans. Like, it's just that we should live in a country where these sorts of erosions of equal protection under law don't happen. It's very bad. Very bad to erode people's rights. What a strange day. I love all of you. Thank you for hanging out until the end of this peculiar non-episode of the Oskar Quentin Show. I'll be back to try again tomorrow, 10 o'clock Central Time, 2:12, or maybe longer. Probably not, because I have a Thursday night gig I do every week. But yeah, one of these days I'm going to do a super duper long stream. But I want it to be an episode where I get a lot of callers. I want to do a marathon. I got to do it on like a Saturday or something. I want to do like 5 hours and just like debate. I want to see if like what my stamina is. I want to see if I'm still good at debating after 5 hours. Will, one of the mods, is reminding you to say, W mods, because the mods keep it happening. People on the Discord keep me informed of things. Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central Time. Goodbye, TikTok. And goodbye, YouTube.